I think this might be a smaller version of it, but that's fine too. So what we're looking at is essentially like a to scale representation of a street in Akihabara. That would be big camera across the way, but this was the first VketReal. So this is where we took our convention like in VR and turned it into a real convention in the real world.
Welcome to Metaverse Degen. I'm Lion. Oop.
I'm Old Man Raptor, and our guest is, knowing that the cameraman can't get the camera on the right person, and our guest is...
Hi, I'm Lhun from the Vket Global team, and I guess from Vrchat, right? In a way.
So,
been here forever.
How did you get started with everything, and how many things are you up to?
That is a long story. How did I get started? Okay, so it all started in 2009 when a little program called Miku Miku Dance came out. The reason why I picked this world first is because this is a Miku Miku Dance stage. If anyone else has ever screwed around with that software, you'll recognize it as this. And in 2014 and in 2015, I became known for having one of the very first VRChat avatar tutorials, actually. That video is now unlisted, and it was so notorious that the method became a banned word in VRChat's Discord for about 4 years. So, yeah, so back when Miku Miku Dance was a thing and people were downloading Miku Miku Dance avatars from places like DeviantArt and Bolaroll and Citrus Smoothie, that's a site that no longer exists, people were grabbing models from, that people were doing from MMD that were like popular in anime and that sort of thing. And I had been doing 3D models and like anime models and all kinds of customization for a really long time. And I realized that there was an easy way to take the Miku Miku like modeling and also some stuff I can't talk about, but people who were influential in the early days of VR recognized that something called a viseme was really just a Vocaloid mouth shape, and we could take that and insert it into Unity using something called Mechanim Body System. And so I released a video in 2015. It got about 70,000 to 80,000 views on YouTube around that time, but it got picked up by a Russian social media site called VK, and it got about 4 to 5 million views. So that became kind of notorious. Apologies to Nora-san for publicizing her website, but it came to the point where a tool that I had recommended to use to convert Miku Miku dance models into VRChat put malware to remove the VRChat SDK, and also Google Drive and Yahoo Drive, and so it became a banned word in the Discord. So like that's a really long story, but but they found their way back to us and they realized what VRChat is now and it's important. So I've been told, and I don't want to say this myself, but other people have told me, and I guess I have to repeat it, but other people have told me that I'm the reason VRChat is anime, at least in part.
Oh,
yeah,
that's quite the title.
No doubt.
Oh,
can't carry that in your pocket.
So
no, I want to give it away to someone else every day, honestly.
So from the beginning, for early days, what led you to where you are now with VCAT and all the other things you're up to?
Well, so I was an early like VR developer. I did a lot of like experimental stuff. I wrote a driver for Oculus. I wrote tutorials for things like Elite Dangerous and Windows 10 before it was popular. And a bunch of other things like that. I had a DK1 and a DK2. I think my tutorial was featured by Jacksepticeye and a few other people like that, like way back in the day. So that's like old YouTube stuff, old Twitch stuff. And since then I started creating worlds in VRChat. This is a pretty old one. This is just it's a DXT stage, but it uses some real-time lighting tricks and other stuff like that. So I've been doing like tricks in VRChat for a pretty long time. Like just kind of pushing the envelope. A lot of other people have gotten way better than me. But in the early days, I was really interested in mobile compatibility and I was doing stuff. This is probably one of the first Quest worlds also. That sort of interest led me to people like Lakuza and VRC Prefabs, which is, I would say, like that's my safe space. Like those guys are my oldest friends in here. I got to know people who were coming into VRChat in 2016 and then 2017 and then 2018. I was good friends with people like Little Yui, and folks like that, like way back in the day, like the early people. And seeing seeing that like that all sort of like build up and the platform get popular, and then it got released on Steam, and the Uganda Knuckles thing happened, and then it sort of built up. But what I always found more interesting as somebody who hung out with like the MMD community was like the Japanese side of stuff. So one other person who was similar to me in that regard was Tanabe. And Tanabe is like the VR soba chef. He has a special on the NHK as well, and I knew him in alt space as well. And he came here and started building cool stuff, and I got to know a little bit more of the Japanese community. And then I got to know Prefabs and Lakuza, and we started hanging out at his place. And eventually Theo, who founded Vket, started talking to Lakuza about who could we get to build like a global team that would help promote Virtual Market in 2019. Like, so Virtual Market came out in late 2018. And in late 2019 is when they were starting to talk about, okay, we need an English presence here. How do we get the English people involved? And he started asking like prominent people who were knowledgeable about Japanese stuff in VR chat. How do we get them in? And that's what led to Lakuza actually recommending me to Theo, and the rest is history. I became like a technical marketing director at hikky as a subcontractor for the global team, and started working with Vket from like the design stage of Vket 4 in late or mid 2019, and to eventually being involved and creating maps for Vket 5 and 6 and 2021 and so on after that. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
it's pretty big. I started working on all kinds of stuff at that point. It was a lot of fun.
So let's start also some ask questions about your early days in VR. What was some of your first steps in VR and VR chat like during those times?
Oh man. Okay, so one of the first people I got to meet was actually Rubik. He just left VRChat recently, but he was VRChat's first QA. I got to know Gunter from Gunter's Universe. And used to attend all of the Sunday meetups with my wife. So she's just as old of a player as I am, actually. And we would hang out at the Sunday meetups when there was like 30 or 40 regular players, like back before it was on Steam. So my first VR chat experience was like a DK1 and an Xbox controller.
Oh, wow.
And that was the only way you could play the game, right? At that point. For the longest time, I never played it on desktop. Like, I only got into desktop thanks to CyanEmu, like Cyan Laser's like emulator for Unity. I only learned the desktop controls at that point because I had never played VR chat outside of VR. Like, ever. Like, it was always like a headset and a controller for me, all the way through until the Vive came out, and then I was like VR the entire time. Like I actually didn't know how to use the desktop version of VR chat very well until I started like making worlds and stuff. So that was the early days for me. It was like the Sunday meetups with the original VR chat staff. So people like Rubik and Gunter and VR Pill, who I've come to know quite well. And Noe before he was a staff member. In fact, most of the VR chat staffs, I got to know them before they started working at the company, which is pretty cool. I've even got a few of them hired, so it's pretty nice to get to know these people and see how this company has grown.
Oh, wow. So how much has
Luna, sorry, Lane. Luna, what's the weirdest thing you ever seen in VR?
The weirdest thing I've ever seen in VR chat? Oh my god. I don't think I could repeat it publicly. There's a lot of weird shit in here. There was a time when you could go to every Quest world and see them as they were being published, because it was so rare for someone to make something Android compatible. So you could like spend a day or two and just get through every Quest world, right? And the stuff you would see is just unbelievable. It's almost like peering into someone's sock drawer, because like they put up pictures of their home life, or they'll rebuild their bedroom, or they'll talk about their VR chat relationships, or how their friendships broke down, and all these little private worlds that they build for themselves. In the early days, that's how it felt. It was everybody's little like storybook, like everybody's favorite everybody's favorite book series, like people who were into Tad Williams, people who were into Ready Player One, people who were into like Blade Runner and Neuromancer and all that stuff. These were all like really, really early stuff. And I save a lot of these worlds like in my old like favorites history in VR chat. Some of them are broken, some of them still work, but like back then it was like the weirdest stuff was like peering into someone's sock drawer, especially when it got really personal, when they were like, they would put up tribute worlds to their lost friendships and things like that. So I'm glad that the velocity of worlds is being built in VR chat now, that people actually have like a plan, and there's game devs in here, and there's like jams, and people are there's a lot of cool prefabs, so like you have a lot of worlds that are a little more generic. But the weirdest stuff is like you feel like you shouldn't be there. It's like you're looking at somebody's journal. You know what I mean? And that was the early stuff. But I mean, weird and cool. The creativity that comes out of PK's worlds, and I think you guys have interviewed him once before. So my friend PK, maybe not. So he does the break events and the core. And you've probably seen him on my social media quite a bit. And I've known him for a while. He came from a group called the Neko Animation Squad, and they used to like put crazy animations on their avatars and show them off in Gaia Night back in the day. And they roll with some of the same people like Skern and 1001, rest in peace. But people like that. And they would like do animations and do really cool stuff. And I would say like weird but cool would definitely be all of King Deluxe's stuff. Weird but cool would be all of Obake's stuff. He runs the legendary Ghost Club, and he works for Senryo for their V-Fest. And weird but weird, all the really, really early experimental stuff that people would just like kind of throw up onto VRChat as just like some cathartic live journal in 3D. Like I guess, there's some weird. I could take you guys on a trip one of these days, but maybe off camera.
Okay, that's fair. It sounds like from what you tell us so far, VRChat was a very different thing from when it started to where it is now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. It has a very if you look at the early days, there's a lot of like transplants from other VR platforms. So some people who might be listening might remember Converge, and then Altspace, and then places like Forgotten Realms and other stuff like even oh god, there's so many. Even like Bowieverse. Like there are people that came from those original like metaverse platforms like 3D Realms and other places like that. Like I think Straz has talked about some of these really early metaverse sites as well, but there is definitely transplants from that, and other online communities too. Like they find themselves in here. 4chan definitely has a very big presence in VRChat also. Even though they're like a loose knit group as they are. But there's connections to those like early social sites and early just like internet culture sites, both Nichan and 4chan, so like 2channel and 4channel, and other like image board culture and that sort of stuff. Like that's actually quite deep and primitive in here as well. And so is like more modern groups and less problematic, I guess, in some ways, groups like less anonymous groups. That do stuff together. Like there's communities from every country in the world that get together and build maps. Like you can find everything from Poland to Canada to, communities in Russia and Brazil. Like you name it, they're all in here. So those little enclaves that form themselves in here that was really strong in the early days, and now it's a little bit of everything. But the communities are kind of finding each other and finding prefabs, and with VCC and things like that, like they're starting to build worlds that are quite similar. And then you have like big productions like Vket and big productions like Shelter, Tube, and other groups like that are doing cool stuff, and even Hololive like last week. So yeah.
Cool. So you said earlier you made worlds for after you brought MMD into here with this here. How many other worlds have you made, and what led for the inspirations to those?
Well, a lot of them I can't show you because they're all VRChat worlds, but for Vket. But I've made a lot of like little weird experimental things that have led into something else. One that is also quite popular is Leake Street Tunnel. I guess I could just drop a portal to it. Do that. And I can explain a little bit about what makes this one special, even though a few people have seen it before, I'm sure. This one's kind of special to me for a lot of reasons. I can lead off of here and talk about all kinds of things that that make this world kind of interesting, right? So
oh, you can keep it, dog. I'm just shutting the cameras up.
All right, that's all good. So so this world is the Banksy Tunnel in Britain. This is a scan by a dude named Art Fletch on Sketchfab. But this is one of the first ones that he actually made available online. And I did a few things in here that kind of make it pretty interesting. It's one material that is a single 8K texture. I'm doing like weird Unity tricks with linear fog and occlusion culling and other things that like cut the map up so that it's very cheap and you'll get all the frames in here, like no matter what you're running. And the detail is pretty good. I did a smooth map. Collision map, but what's interesting about this is that the whole thing is baked in emissive. The other thing is that it's a time capsule, to right around when the George Floyd protests happened, and I really enjoy this kind of stuff. And there's a lot of really incredible photogrammetry communities in VRChat, and you should probably check them out. Scanning some of this stuff, like even VketReal, which I'm sure we'll go to later. Even VketReal has a photogrammetry community that has scanned our real world conventions and brought them in so that you can experience them in person. Even if you couldn't go in Japan. But this is a really good example of like good photogrammetry. Like this particular scan was quite good, and I did a lot of processing on it to make it better. But what you're looking at is essentially a time capsule at the beginning of the George Floyd protests, the COVID pandemic, and it doesn't look like this anymore because this area gets painted over entirely, like every couple of months, right? It's essentially a place where you can do legal graffiti in Great Britain. And so all of this existed at one time and no longer exists. And VRChat and Sketchfab might be the only two places you can see it.
Oh, really?
But one cool thing I did in here is I baked it without a light map. And so all of the light probes work properly. So if you're in a bright area, like over here, you'll light up and accept the color of the wall. But there's no light map. It's all emissive. I did it by taking the whole map, making it emissive, baking it into light probes, and then deleting the light map afterwards. So there's all kinds of like really old school Unity tricks for game dev that you can do that a lot of people sort of forget. They get into these like prefab communities, and I find some of the best developers in VRChat are people who have learned Unity outside of this community, and then applied that knowledge to building new maps. And I think that's where I come from too, right? But at the same time, the people who are learning Unity and game development from VRChat are also learning some really interesting stuff too, right? But this was an early example of a map that I built that was pretty popular. A lot of the dance community and breakdance community use this map just because it looks cool, like it looks good in videos. At the beginning, you'll notice there was a VRCon Easter egg hunt section in there that I haven't replaced or uploaded. One other thing that I got involved in, I would say in 2018, 2019 was VRCon. And I made VRConi actually.
I saw the 2020
which was
map
their
in
map.
yours. 2020 stage.
I did the stage with Addie and Cake. But my wife and I designed VRConi, the actual model. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that was the So one cool thing we did is we did this like 360 image, and you can incept somebody into VR with the music and everything. Right, there you go.
Oh wow, that is cool.
So that was the original VRCon map. And one cool collaboration that we did at the time was to have Virtual Market 5, which was the first main event that we were able to do together, like as global team. We were able to preview Virtual Market 5 in VRCon. And if you listen to like Johnny's like Welcome to VRChat Bo Burnham parody, like he mentions, have you been to VRCon? Like that was around that time. Well, so it was pretty cool.
Oh wow. So
it was really neat. But yeah, this map is pretty neat. I like it.
So what was some of the earlier days of VCAT like when you started, and what was some of the earlier events similar to? Or like?
Oh man, so that was hard. We jumped right in at the beginning, like trying to influence what was in VCAT, and getting more Western involvement with 3D modelers and other designers from those early days. And we got Octoplex involved in VCAT on the early days, and again, that's thanks to VRC prefabs. And we got Sentinel also involved in the early days. So Sentinel did one of our the map we called Orbital in VCAT 5. He did a bunch of like props for that, and then Octoplex did a map called Curiosity with one of our developers at VCAT as well, or one of our guest developers at VCAT, and she did a bunch of like really incredible, like we actually world hopped it last week. It was like a Nightmare Before Christmas style, but he did all the little ghosts and everything, and like the main like spider character and everything in his style. But his participation in VCAT actually led to things like Rubber Ross using Octoplex for his model and for Jaden Animation's model as well. So that whole thing, like where Rubber Ross came to VRChat and brought Jaden, that led to Octoplex and his designer Funky Studios doing a bunch of stuff with them as well. So they saw their booth for the first time at Vket. So there's all kinds of like little connections that have happened since then. The early days were interesting. We tried to get a lot of like creators involved and getting more people to exhibit at Vket. But then building the numbers up during the pandemic was like a really interesting thing. It was a crazy time for everybody. So in 2019 and 2020, there was all these opportunities getting thrown at us because all of these other groups that would do like real world stuff stopped being able to do real world stuff. So they wanted to have conventions in real life. So we had Sega and Sony and Disney and Netflix and all these other Marvel, all these other companies coming to us and doing things. So we were definitely like at the right place at the right time with a company that was built on remote work. So it worked out pretty good. And then we were able to do all this cool stuff with VRChat. And we really grew from them. But we were doing remote work like before the pandemic, so we were in the right place at the right time. And then having the global team there and having the oomph of this company Hikky behind us now, we were really able to build a lot of momentum on the Western side, and we had a ton of visitors and a ton of exhibitors. One big contribution I did was to write our nomination for the 2020 AIXR VR Awards, and then won that, which was pretty awesome.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, that was that was a lot of fun. I think that helped propel the company a lot. I mean, obviously, I'm building off the work that the Japanese side already built, so I can't take a lot of credit there. But I was able to write it in a way that worked for them and help promote it in a way that worked for them. And it led to us winning that award, which eventually, a couple of years later, we finally made profitability. And then we closed around a series funding in about 2020-ish, mid-2020-ish, of about 7 billion yen, which is about 70 or 80 million US dollars. So it worked out pretty good. So the company's well established now. We have a lot of partnerships like NTT Docomo and JR Rail in Japan and Mizuho Bank, and who else is there? A big one is like the company that owns My Anime List, and they're investors as well. So Hikky's doing really well. As a company, we're doing pretty great. We get to go to conventions. We get to have our own conventions. We get to have virtual conventions, local conventions. So it's really fun what you can do in VRChat, where you can go. This platform is wonderful because it's where everyone goes to hang out in VR. Right? This is the real social VR community.
Oh wow!
And it was easy. It was easy to promote. I will say that. That's for sure.
So how much? Let's do this instead. How much actually changed with COVID and that whole pandemic with Hikky and VRChat from what you experienced on the more businessy side of things?
We were lucky in that it continued. I think that like we had a lot of people who sort of joined us. One of the things we didn't get to do again, for example, was like game Vket. So if you don't know, Vket's got a bunch of different stuff. So we do virtual market, which you see in VRChat, and Hikky is part of that. And we do these events every 6 months or twice a year. It's been less than 6 months lately, but like twice a year. And then we have music Vket, which I helped spearhead, which was a ton of fun, by the way. And I have to thank people like Rob Roman's Voice, and Miss Stabby and Uzi Jacuzzi and other folks like that who were part of that early day and helped getting music Vket off the ground, because we did like a test event for musicians. And that led to this thing that we decided to do on the global side, was like to do concerts, and that led into music Vket. But like we were able to get a lot of like really big musicians like Miyavi and Verbal from MFlow / Teriyaki Boys, and people like Waifu Baby and other folks to come in here and do music with us, and Exile Tribe, and like you name it, like just tons of people, Flamingo Dance, like crazy big artists to come in here and do stuff, and let Camellia and D-Watt from IOSIS, and like I could go on and on and on about all these like really established like DJ Sharpnel and all these other people who are like well published people. And that during the pandemic, we were able to gather a lot of these like music industry people and Sony and all these other groups to do stuff with us. And it's changed a lot in that these companies have to be a little more connected to metaverse stuff to want to do more with Vket, because they could do a huge booth back then and have a huge uplift. Like Beams is a really good success story. I think they published like a marketing success story where they were like, it's like 130%. The amount of conversion, which is like where someone will buy something based on something they saw, compared to like doing traditional advertising. Because I mean, everyone's captive and they got a screen on their face. But the types of companies that would invest in us and do like a sponsor spot at Vket is a lot different now than it was during the pandemic. I'll say that. So there was a lot more corporate interest and a lot less like regular exhibitor interest, and now we have more regular exhibitor interest in indies coming through and small companies coming through, small businesses coming through, or small manufacturing companies or new headsets and things like that than we had. They're very VR adjacent, I'll say that. And those are the companies that are coming through and doing it. So that's a big difference now. I should preface this though that it's not all business. Vket is really a creators convention. And maybe this is a good segue to jump into a Vket world. But this is a really good example of what we do. We are. Have you heard of Comiket before?
Comiket sounds familiar.
Mm-mm.
So Comiket is the
heard of
world's
it.
largest convention. It happens in Japan every 6 months. Obviously, we have some inspiration from Vket. And Comiket is a comics artist and manga artist or indie anime artists convention where they get together and they form what we call circles. We call them the same thing in Vket. And they get together and build like one-off comic books or special edition comic books, and they put them out for sale on little booths or little exhibits inside Comiket. And we do the same thing, but for 3D creators in Vrchat. And that's our core focus. Like for every PKCZ creator world, there's 10 more regular exhibitor worlds, and that's the point. The sponsors and all the corporate stuff that I've just been talking about, they just fund it because people are coming anyway, right? And that's the key. So Vket is not really like this hugely corporate thing. It's really an indie creators convention, and it just happens to be so damn popular that everyone else shows up, right? So we have these, just like Sony would show up to Comiket, or just like PAX Expo or Anime Expo. You have these big companies come, and you have an artist alley. Vket is 90% artist alley, and I would say like 10% corporate. And they're here to pay for it. It's not really about that. So they sponsor us because people will come anyway. And I think that's the important part to remember. But let me drop. I'm trying to think of a world. What are you feeling today? What do you guys feel? You want like you both have like really awesome like furry / kimono avatars, so I feel like we do something like that.
Drop
So
whatever world makes you happy.
Or do you want to be happy? We don't have a
Well,
problem with it.
I want to make you guys happy. That's my job.
Oh.
So my whole thing is to take you guys on a trip, and I'm gonna make sure I do it the best Lhun style I possibly can. So we have over 340 worlds right now, and this is just one of them.
Okay. Well, I think I should also preface this. The world isn't something Raptor and I are looking for. You are what we're looking for. You and your story.
Yeah, but of course, but I need the world to kind of explain what I do, what we do, and where we come in, and where I come in. I do want to tell you more about myself, of course, but I feel that a lot of my personality comes from the things that I do at work, and because they inspire me. I guess I'll preface this, like, the reason why I want to show this off, the reason why I want to take you through this journey of all these different worlds is mainly because my motivation, my passion here is taking all this amazing stuff that people have built and making sure that other people see it, because there is so many people in the world that just don't understand what this is, what social VR is, what the metaverse is capable of. But I've been here from the beginning. I've seen it all. And we like to joke, we joke that, Lhun is like that guy from The Matrix. He doesn't even see the code anymore. He just sees blonde, brunette, redhead. The fact that I could point out, like, shaders that were made by specific people and particle systems that were made by specific people, or like even where a mesh came from or who the author of an avatar is, like, I feel very privileged to be able to do that. And that's where my passion lies. So as we walk through these worlds, I could talk about some of the creative process that I was involved in and why I care so much about this stuff. So as a creator in the early days, I was just throwing stuff at the wall. Like, I just wanted to see what would go. Like, I knew what I could do with MMD with the PIA Pro license. I knew what I could do with my own models. I obviously 3D model as well. I guess I'll start from that. So my wife and I build models together and have done for a long time. So not only am I a member of Vket Club for Men, I'm also a client. The whole point behind this thing is building avatars and getting an audience and getting people to see them. And so, we do that together too. And as a modeler myself, like, I wish there was something like this other than, places like I don't know, like DeviantArt back in the day, right? But like we built this model. You may have seen it around. and a bunch of different butterfly designs, and she even raised butterflies and like studied them to do all the textures and everything for this, right? So the passion that's behind these kinds of things, and the creation of this kind of stuff is really important. But I'm not the only person that has a story like this. So does like 40 to 80 people in just this world, and there's 300 more worlds filled with 40 to 80 people that have built avatars. So every VKet, we have like 3,000 new assets that get uploaded into this, and it drives all this new original content for social VR. And I wish that I could tell the story of every avatar like I do with this one. Like, we raised Lunamoths. Like, she actually raised monarchs because they were like endangered in the area we live in. And so she raised them in a little like cage, and and helped them like spread out and like raise them from a chrysalis, and then studied the textures and took pictures and used that to draw and design this avatar, right? And that we modeled together and built together. So my wife and I do a lot of modeling, and that has led to her doing other things for big artists and other things like that. We also create a lot of the world VKet chans together. So if you've ever seen, these are all things I've done on my own. So if you've seen like Burger VKet chan, this one here, like we designed the costume on this one. And she's got a burger that you can put on the ground, right? Or things like this. And we were able to do, what else did we do? We did Las Vegas VKet chan, which is this one. And these are just like edits, right, of our existing models. But being able to do this stuff with my wife together and talk about it and have this beautiful artwork that we can build stuff off of, I'm really passionate about it, and it's a lot of fun. And part of the reason why I wanted to take you here and walk through what VKet is all about is because of the passion that goes into these worlds and the people I get to work with. So it really excites me, right? This world, we even built a little NPC system that's a bit like a Pokemon. So if you click New Game, you hit New Game and you walk through here. Essentially, we'll crash this airship and then continue.
Don't let lion.
Oh.
So behind us is like the crashed airship, and then there's this mysterious little creature over here, this Mooey. And hearing about how people, like the people that built this, and being able to put feedback, like we have a big fat Discord server, and there's about 200 employees in there, and subcontractors and other people like that. And we, even myself and everyone else, gets to talk about it, and what is created and what we're building in here and what the next idea is. And we get to contribute to like the translations and the ideas in general. And you get to talk to like storyboarders and all that sort of stuff. And so we decided that, it would be fun if we had an NPC system that you could take with you. Remember those old video games where you could like enter a code and it would continue where you left off? Mooey is like that. But some of the ideas that came from this was like getting good Unity engineers together and doing stuff like making this an extension in Unity. And we talk about, together, we all talk about as a VKet is happening, like what are we going to do? Like what would be cool? What did people on the Western side like? What did people on the Japanese side like? And I love to share that information with them and walk through tours like this and get to know people. And it's so cool to see my friends come in here and start doing VKet because of something I've told them to do, or like that I've suggested, and to see it happen later is just amazing. But yeah, I mean, this is what drives me. I want to show not just what I've done, but what everybody else is doing, because I can't blow the horn loud enough, right? And if more people can find this opportunity through me showing it off like this a little bit and talking about what I do and things that I was involved in, then this is a win for me as well, right? I think I spend more time talking about what all this other cool stuff that other people have done than myself, so I find it a little bit hard sometimes just to talk about cool things I've done. I will talk about it. I've been accused of being braggadocious sometimes, but it's not that. It's like knowledge. I just want to share as much knowledge as possible. And yes, I was involved in a lot of early stuff, but look at what people have built since, like these are all individuals in here just like me. And every one of them could be another 2-hour podcast, I'm sure.
Easy. And
some of these people are building communities or avatars. They work in the games industry. Obviously, some of them have like a lot of individual talent, or maybe you wonder if they're traditionally trained. and I'll say I'm not. You know, my wife is a character design artist, and she went to school for digital animation, and I got to like learn a lot from her, and then she got to learn a lot from me. I taught her to do 3D modeling. I taught her to, to learn like Blender and Unity and that sort of stuff. And at the same time, she taught me like some graphics design stuff and art. And we got to work together to build stuff. And then we got to see what all these other folks were doing, and it's just sort of snowballed from there. Like to say that I've been here a long time is putting it lightly. Like I started playing VRChat in 2014, like April or whenever
wow.
like it started, like the first few weeks. VRChat started using Amazon AWS and having a persistent database in July of 2015 or so, and that's the date you'll see on my account if you go look at it.
Oh wow.
A weird username and all kinds of stuff. So, so watching it go from just 35 of us hanging out in Gaia Night or going to Gunter's Universe and the whole Mr. Whiskers project and going to college and slapping headsets on people and say, look at this, you need to see this. Like taking a DK2 and like putting it on people and say, look, this is VRChat. Like you have no idea what's going on in here. And then seeing these early Japanese communities get together and do things and finding them. And then being more interested in that because that was my scene on the internet earlier, right? That's how I found myself here, I think, more than anything. Doing this kind of stuff. I guess I should tell you a little bit about my family too. So my whole family plays VRChat. In fact, my wife is down here. Say hello. That's her. So she's bringing me something to drink so I don't go crazy. But she plays VRChat too. And so does my daughter, who is now 15. I think you've met Shifter K at the World Hop. And my daughter also plays VRChat. And has traveled to Japan with us for VketReal and everything else.
Oh wow.
But she's been playing VRChat since she was very, very little in stealth mode, right? Yeah, and so I think you saw. I think she recognized you, and you may have seen her in the Griffin avatar that I was wearing earlier, but like the Candy Gore one.
I think so.
That she was in.
I think she was sitting next to your wife at the last World Hop, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So it's really interesting to see, to work with both of them. My daughter did her own textures when she was like 13.
Oh, wow.
So it's neat to have like a family together in VRChat. We actually share a play space down here. So we have we have 3 computers along the back wall and 4 lighthouse tracking stations, and we have 6 index controllers and like 13, 14 full body tracking, 3 valve indexes. A big screen beyond, all kinds of stuff. I've got a Vario and a million other headsets. You guys have probably seen the meme of me that floats around. It's listed as like the final boss of VR, and it's like a dude with that's literally me in the basement I'm standing in right now. So, like not like figuratively me. Like I took that picture, so it's like literally me. So it is funny to be that guy. Mr. I've had every headset. And it's led me to like get to know a lot of really cool people. Like I've had short conversations with people like Palmer Luckey and John Carmack. And then longer conversations with really cool people like Brad. Like sadly it's Bradley Brad. And been very privileged to get to know people like Fia and Thrillseeker. And of course some of my oldest friends in here actually went on to be pretty big creators, like people like Fillion and TFM Johnny, like, to see them become who they are today and become some of the biggest like VTubers and like 3D avatar personalities in the world is like such a cool thing. I don't think I've ever striven to that though, because I really am more about promoting other people's stuff. And I just want to I want cool tech. I want to travel and I want to see what people do with it. Like if I can get myself and my family secure and enjoy the rest of our lives, enjoying technology in a comfortable way, like I'm cool with that. Like money isn't as important to me as it might be to some other people, but I also want to hang out with cool people and do cool things. I think that's what drives me more than anything. I want to make cool stuff, and I want other people to make cool stuff, and I want to like show off like the Thailand community and like all these people who are making cool stuff, right? So one thing we do every year is we find other ways to promote people for free. Booths, of course, were free, but until we got too popular, so we had to start charging a little bit of money for these booths to make sure that they didn't get just filled up, because sometimes my promotion can go, like my promotion, the JP second promotion can go a little bit too hard, right? And then we end up with a lot of people signing up, and we have a lot of people who like make sock puppet accounts and other things like that. So, you know, it's like DJ Khaled, we're suffering from success, but you know, it's one of those moments, right? But we, you know, we want to do things like, you know, if you got a Twitch or you got a community in VR chat, or you're a VTuber, or you've got a podcast like you guys do. We want to find ways to promote that, and so do I. I want to find ways to show people this stuff. I think that's really what drives me more than anything, and my family too, because we want to do this stuff forever. It's really fun. You know, we've been involved forever in this stuff. Like, I was able to get an interview with my young daughter at the age of 6 or 7 years old, when Microsoft had sponsored the ISS, and she was able to speak to an astronaut from Italy on the ISS in a headset.
Oh, wow.
Via 360 video live, which was like
Wow.
the coolest thing in the world. Like, so when you get in early on technology, it can take you a lot of really cool places. You just have to have an eye for what's going to be the next big thing, I think. And that's always been my passion. Like, oh, look, check out this VR thing. I'm pretty sure Oculus knows what they're doing, so I'm going to get a dev kit. And then just, you know, it snowballed from there. So.
So I have a question for you. What have been some memories or things that have stuck out with you you've done or seen since getting into VR?
The first time my daughter ever got into VR, she went to a Sunday World Hop with some of the early VR chat devs and a lot of members from Prefabs and other people who used to meet up and build worlds together. And one thing that sticks out for me is the very first time she was ever in VR, in a headset. And I think I had put her in the original Vive. I don't know what headset I had at the time. Maybe I had something else, but she had a Vive. And she got on a ladder in a map that was for like picking apples off of trees, and Rubric, VRChat's former QA, grabbed the ladder and yeeted it into space. Like, he just grabbed it and like threw it. And like, you know, it had Unity physics, so it just like went forever. And hearing her scream as she tumbled through the air into infinity, that's a moment. That was like 7 years ago. That's like a moment that stuck with me. That's something that I've always laughed about. But other things I built that were really fun. Getting to meet Miyavi, who is like a pretty famous guitarist. You can buy his guitar at Guitar World. Like, that's how famous he is. He was also he was the character Finn in the TV series Arcane about League of Legends. Like, that was him. He also like did a bunch of songs on that show. He opened for like the Dodgers. What else has he done? He had a bunch of albums out. He was in the movie Kate on Netflix and a ton of other stuff. Being able to make his avatar and like have him send us pictures from the gym of his tattoos and stuff so that we could like make his avatar in VR chat was the coolest. That was a great experience. Like, being able to work with somebody like that just because we were there at the right time and get to meet someone like that was really cool. Other things that stood out to me, going to the very first like shelter event, or you know, or experiencing some of the particle lives that you never thought were possible. Those kinds of like immersive, like jaw-dropping wow experiences are really neat. And then, you know, other cool experiences like watching movies with friends in here. Like, those early, that seems so mundane now. People do this all the time. But like in the really early days when we all had headsets, or seeing the first person, like I remember, okay, here, do you guys know about some of the older, like old VR chat maps? Like some of the original ones?
I know some of them.
Raptor May. I don't know. Not. I've heard of them and seen maybe one. I think Gaia Knight, but that'd be about it.
Okay, Gaia Knight's pretty good. It's been rebuilt recently. In fact, we were talking about VRCon earlier. There's a fun fact. A lot of the members of VRCon came and worked on PKCZ Fest later on. And they all kind of moved over. Like, they're like the you know, like the alumni from that. And the music for the first PKCZ Fest was done by the same musician who did the Gaia Knight music.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so that's like a funny connection there. I have a good memory for this stuff. So it's pretty fun. That it's also a bit of a curse. Like, I tend to remember too much. So speaking of tangents, I will go on them. But let me see if I can find some like a connection. One of the things that you reminded me of, like, what was the most memorable thing? Seeing the first person I ever saw in full body tracking.
Oh, really?
That was really interesting, and I remember the map it happened in. but I can't remember the name of it. Let me just find it real quick. It was an MMD dance world that shows the original connection. Because another thing that I did when I released like how to put MMD maps in VRChat was also how to do animations with them. And I think a lot of people picked up on that and just sort of carried it out. I wonder if the world has gone private. Hope not. But it was like an MMD dance stage. I guess it's not too important, the map itself. But
Wouldn't be the vault, would it?
No. The vault was done by Digi. That's a whole other story. Oh, I found it. So Digi's another person I know quite well. But let me show you this one. This is MMD Nightclub. This is old. This is very, very old.
Yo, folks.
Say hi to the camera raptor.
Hi, Dad. Everybody says Mom.
I think my dad is more likely to watch my videos. I know he does sometimes, but so this is a good example. I don't want to get you guys like demonetized. You'll end up having to like if I pick any of these, they're almost all. Maybe I could get away with Bad Apple.
I have world volume off, so you can play whatever, and no one will hear it.
All right, yeah, I can probably get away with Bad Apple. But so these are all VMD animations. So to explain how all this works, a VMD animation is like a Miku Miku dance animation sequence, and there was Nora-chan from Stereo Arts built a tool in Unity that allowed you to convert them into Unity animations. Now you can do that in Blender. It's pretty easy. But this world, I think 2016 or earlier it came out. But the very first time I ever saw somebody in full body tracking ever in VRChat was right here, and he was in a Nikkei. And that was easily 2016. I'm sure it's still on my my Steam screenshots, because like back in the day we didn't have a camera, so we would just like hold the menu button and trigger at the same time, and we would take these like 3D pictures with Steam's overlay. And I have a picture of me standing like right here, looking over here, and oh my god, I saw somebody in full body tracking for the first time, and I'm pretty sure it was somebody from HTC at the time, and they were in here in a Nikkei avatar dancing to one of these.
Oh.
But this was a place that everybody would hang out at. Like there was only, you get on VRChat and there'd be like, you go to populated worlds, there'd be like 3. And like this was one of them. So, this was one of those worlds you could go to and hang out in. And when the weekend scene started to pick up a little bit, and it actually, I would say like the club scene and the music scene in VRChat started with these like pre-programmed music worlds before we had video players and movie players for a little while, but they were problematic because they were literal web panels. And then eventually it led to having a proper media player in here that really exploded the whole like events and club scene. And then Vket was his own thing, right? I think that was like, for a while that was just like, people would do worlds, and then people would do like clubs and hangout worlds and other things like that. And then in 2018 when Vket came out, it was like, oh, this is something very different, right? Like there's now like a scene for avatar creators and places, people who are making stuff. Another thing that really sticks out to me is discovering Memex. Have you guys heard of those guys before?
No. Who are they?
So Memex is a band, and that's one of the inspirations behind Music Vket for me was seeing their stuff. Memex was a band in VRChat, or is a band in VRChat. It's Peebo and Ipo. And they started building these musical shows in VRChat, and they were using like really interesting techniques like get audio spectrum data, which is something that was possible in SDK2, and they were live streaming Twitter comments and Niku Niku Dogu comments into a VRChat world in real time, and recording that and encoding the data into animations, much like this. I remember showing an individual named Locks that, and it led to him building something called Shader Motion, which was incredible, and continues to be incredible to this day. And I think that the inspiration of what everyone else is doing, kind of, and how people can build off of that and turn it into other things is like one of the coolest things that we can see evolving here. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I invented a bunch of stuff. I've worked with a lot of cool people who have. I've done a few techniques that other people haven't done, and helped with a lot of cool projects. But I feel nice that I've had my fingers in a few pies on the way, But again, like I think it lends itself to me. Like I'd rather like give people an idea or show them something in Unity and let them run with it and see what they make, because I get a lot of joy from that too. Like to see what they build after, I don't want to do it all myself. I want to work with other people to make cool things. I think that's that's what I enjoy the most. I don't have a lot of time either. Like I'm a dad. I got a wife. I got a family. You know, I'm busy. I have 2 jobs. One of them is working in VR chat, so that's a whole thing. And with that limited time, I want to find the right people who are as passionate or as interested in this kind of technology as I am, and then to build other things out of it. So I like to find people like that and spend time with them, like real creators. People like Shadow River, I've had a long relationship with, and he's just an absolutely incredible Unreal Engine and Unity developer and shader creator, and he's done some really passionate stuff, and we got a lot of similar overlaps, and he's passionate about Vket, so I get to work with him and build cool things. And I've got to work with people like VirtualReality, who's gone on to do like stages for Hacko's Bales for HoloLive, and we've gotten nominated for Rain Dance and became a finalist, and you know, we were able to build all kinds of cool stuff together over the years, you know. And I think working with other people and building things has been a lot of fun. I mean, I do a lot of Unity stuff on my own. I program a lot of stuff on my own, but a lot of it doesn't get. I don't publish it under my own stuff. You know, it's usually in collaboration with other people. There's a lot of worlds I built kind of on my own, or with like a couple of other people, but they're all published under the virtual market accounts, which I'm fine with. You know, I'm in the credits. It's all good. I'd rather like see what we can do together than focus on what I can do on my own, right?
Yeah.
Or show off cool stuff like this in the early days, because I mean I got to see everybody's got ideas, and as the I guess as the population in here grows, like the more cool stuff you'll see continues to grow as well.
So what have been some of your favorite moments with Vket?
With Vket, oh god, one I can't show you. Miyabi definitely was. That was Vket 2020. I can't show you because I can't show you. But one that is public is this one. We don't have to do the whole thing, but I will show you this. I don't know if you've been here before, but this is one of my favorite things that we ever did.
Oh,
so
wow.
this map was a bit of a love letter. It was a moment where I wanted to show the person I was working with that I knew their history and I knew their back catalog of music, and I really wanted them to know, like, that I was passionate about what they were building. So I was a bit greedy in the things that I designed this whole world. Lily did a little bit of the modeling with me right at the end, like just to clutch some stuff. But I did most of the modeling in here, most of the design in here. My wife did a few props and stuff too. But so in here, this world was built specifically for PKCs. PKCs is an experimental group. It stands for Primal Knowledge Chambers, and it's comprised of Verbal from MFlow / Teriyaki Boys, Exile, Makidai. So it's Makidai, the DJ from Exile Tribe on LDH Records. Also DJ Daruma from Flamingo Dance, and Alan Shirahama, who is an actor / musician and singer. And they were building an event during the pandemic for Music Vket 2, and they wanted to do like a showcase world. There was a bit like a boiler room and a particle live show, and I was deeply, deeply involved in it. This one, I had a huge amount of work. I mean, Hikky obviously brought the opportunity to us, and I got to meet him virtually and everything else, which is really cool. But when I built this world, I wanted to like put nods to all of the previous work that they have done, because the music that you're about to hear in here is actually a mix of all of a bunch of tracks of people that they work with, they had licensing for. So this subway train is from a Wu-Tang Clan song called Into the Circle that Verbal rapped on. So it had like the PKCs like spray painted on the side of it, so it was like Wu-Tang Clan and PKCs, and that was through here. One individual I didn't get to make anything to nod to was Snoop Dogg, because he's done a bunch of songs with him too, but I did the rest. So this character here is actually like an open source model, but the shader was done by Shadow River, who I mentioned earlier. And there's like a whole shader system that he built for that. This world was designed to promote the album release of a song called Glamorous, and it was a single that actually debuted in VRchat. So this single debuted here and was released here in VRchat in 2021 in March, just before my birthday, which was super cool. But these are the people that I work with. So I was the production director on this. The creative director was Mika. The particles were done by Vket and Lhun and Yuru. Pompon-san does all of our localization, and he helped work on the avatar production as well. Although I did the modeling and he did some of the shader work. My wife did the textures. This is her here. This is Explosions, now known as Virtual Lily, as well. And you might know Guile from like A Place for Purple Beings. He does like a bunch of particle work. He did this like what you see here, this back end. Everything else is me. I did the PKCZ logo in here. I did the train, this spinny thing going on in here as well as all these props. So Verbal owns a jewelry brand called Ambush. And the POW symbol is the thing that sort of like got them to be known. And so my wife and I decided like, hey, we put this out. And so when he first came in here and recognized and started to see all of these little cool things that we did as nods to like our knowledge of his work, and seeing him freak out about this stuff as somebody who's like super famous, has like worked with Pharrell and done songs with Snoop Dogg and all this other stuff, it's like it was so cool to say, hey, look, like I know who you are, like we get you, and like to see him go, oh my god, it's the POW, and like to hear him say that was just like it was the coolest shit in the world. Like this has got to be my favorite thing ever. So this is him here. That's Verbal, Makida Daruma, and Alan Shirahama. So over here, another thing that I built in here, we were talking about PK earlier.
Mm-hmm.
A very special system that I built for this was something that not many people do. It's a timeline animator that uses a double variable, and essentially it allows for late player join, and it allows you to like essentially run a sequence of animations on a separate core inside VRChat. It uses a double variable to pick up like the position in the timeline animator, and then you can just scrub it, which is really cool. And so it's all synchronized like really, really nicely.
You wanna hit up the arcade after this?
We've kind of played every arcade game like a million times.
Yeah.
What about the record store?
They didn't get anything new in this week.
Seems like there's like nothing to do.
Hey kids, heard you all need a little bit of fun in your lives.
What the hell are you?
Oh, I'm Letty, and I'm here to show you two improv.
Improv? Isn't that for nerds?
Listen, you and you are both here in VRChat. That makes you and you nerds. So, allow me to take you all to Skits and Bits Improv.
Oh
What
god!
the hell just happened?
Welcome to Skits and Bits Improv, a fun, welcoming, and creative community, all surrounded about the basis of improv.
Hey Robert, I've heard you're bored of the soup.
Yes, and actually, oh my god, this is so much soup! Jesus Christ! I'm not ever gonna get used to that.
I'm gonna be sick.
And we host improv workshops available to all skill levels every Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern. So come join us.
Lottie, you can't be just teleporting and ruining the scene like that.
Oh, don't worry, I got that covered. Allow me. No.
What the hell was that?
This is where we host our shows every last Saturday of each month, 6 p.m. Eastern. Check out how we perform.
You have to stop doing that!
Change.
You have to keep doing that?
And we produce our own short films, sketches, and skits.
Wait, what the hell's a skit?
All right. We're in a skit right now. That's right. So, come and join us, everyone. But do note that this group is meant for ages 18 years or older. So y'all little kids, get out of here, go, bye, sayonara, go, bye. So, what do you think about joining us for improv?
You know, the existential dread of teleportation isn't really all that horrible.
Join us for improv today.
Which is pretty cool. So they did an entire set for us, and they actually did this set 3 times. So this was like in the basement of the like Exile, I think like the Exile merch store in Tokyo. And so they filmed this whole thing from in here. And what you're seeing up top is like Remhack and Hanyu's particle craziness, and then all of it is timeline animator synced. And I just went through and did all the little animation bits, and it's pretty cool. I was I did all the modeling of this part. There's a real-time low reflection light probe that will reflect on everything. Like if you have like a proper reflection on you, like for example, you'll see it on your chest there.
Ooh.
It's all very, very lightweight too. You get lots of frames in here. It even shows up on the VRChat camera lens, which is kind of neat because they use like a reflection system on that, and I'm hitting that layer as well. It's hard to see, but yeah, it's there. So all of these different particle sequences, Remhack, Hanyu, Yuru, and the people who are on the list there. But this whole thing runs for about 45 minutes, and it's a lot of fun. It's really intense in VR, like extremely intense in VR. And some people are like, oh my god, like I can't handle this. It's fun with a like haptic feedback suit, but the whole sequence is incredible, and I hope more people see it. But this one is like one of my favorites. So I've always loved like particle shows in VRChat, and getting to work on this one was like really fun. We had a lot of time, I would say, during the pandemic because, you know, we were all stuck indoors. So we got to kind of go a little crazy and build all this stuff. But yeah. Yeah,
It looks really cool.
So
I'm gonna be honest, it's quite an awesome show.
If you've been through it, it's definitely worth watching. But I can tell you, this world I uploaded at least 500 times.
Oh.
To get it to its final state. There was updates to VRChat in the middle of it. I think this was one of our most ambitious productions. And then the video itself is amazing. And like the passion that came through this. There was even like a secret reveal of who the vocalist was of the song Glamorous. And if you go look up that song on YouTube, it has about 5 or 6 million views on YouTube. But you'll see images from VKet 4. And they had a booth in VKet 4, and you can actually like zoom through it. And so we knew this was going to happen like a year before we did it. And it was really, really cool to be able to do this. Right, we had a lot of success with Vket 2020, which was Vket 5, and it led to all these cool companies and cool people like building stuff with us. But so this has got to be like one of the my favorite things I've ever done. And my fingers are like, I did a lot in here, like a lot. So thankfully I haven't had to like manually do all of it myself anymore. I can just like mostly give ideas now and work with people. But this was something that kicked off, a lot of what we did later in the future. So this was a lot of fun. Showing this world off to people was like one of my favorite things in the world to do, because like you get drunk on a Friday night, people start talking, and you're like, you want to see something cool, and you take them here for the first time, especially if they've never been to Vket or if they've never seen a particle live in VRChat. And seeing this is a great experience. I think that one of the best parts about the people I brought into VRChat is being able to show them like really high level stuff like this, and that's how they stick around. I find the people who like really spend a lot of time in here, they went to the club scene, they went to events like this, and were able to see that kind of stuff, or they came to a Vket early on. You know what I mean?
Still amazing.
I think that's what drags people in here. That's what keeps me in. Yeah, it's what keeps people in here. I definitely recommend checking this out with like if you've got like a Woozer or like a haptic vase, or if you've got like your audio mirrored to a subwoofer in your room or something. Like, come check this out. Watch the whole thing. Like, enjoy it properly, because it's got some cool stuff. there's this giant face about to appear in the sky. Like there's some crazy stuff in here. I think this has got to be my favorite sequence in the whole thing. You remember that movie The Cube?
Yes.
The sequence with the lasers?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Watch this. You'll see what I mean in a second.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And there's a lot of really cool like particle shows like this in VRChat, but it's a lot of fun to do these kinds of things. Another thing that I worked on was our club called Emission, and again, this is with Lily as well as a modeler. Let me drop that for you. We'll go there.
Alrighty.
We'll get out of the void, and we'll jump into this one. So this is a private copy of Emission for me. It's one that I've got on my account, but yeah, we'll go check it out. So this was one of the first Quest compatible maps in VRChat with a video player. Obviously, again, we give a lot of credit to the community for making this possible. Locks came in and did shader motion. We had a cross-platform compatible show where we were beaming from one Unity environment into another Unity environment. where we had Waifu Baby's avatar come in here, and we were able to project her full 2 million polygon model into VRChat and then put that into Quest compatible worlds, which is pretty amazing. And then have backup dancers running from her studio in New York. Now this is when Digi was working with her, and they had a studio called Giga. And in that studio, they had an Xsense motion capture suit. And without giving away too many secrets, we used Locke's shader motion to drive like the 3,200 articulation points in the suit or something like that, and then drive her backup dancers as well. And we did that in this club.
Oh wow.
So this club was released like as a it has a storyline. You can go look at the old videos on the Virtual Market channel on YouTube and check that out. But we were working with AC Chosen early on when VR stage lighting was new, and Leah Lou's audio link when that was new. But the idea behind this club was that it was meant to be a compatible club. It was quite popular, and Emission still is. I gotta update it. I feel bad. This is one of those projects that I keep kind of leaving and needing to come back to because it's near and dear to me. Pompon-san made Vket Chan Plus as well at the time, and we did a little animation with her. But this club was designed to be like wicked fast. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in here where all of these are like dynamic. They're Unity dynamic batching, so like all of these lights are under 900 polygons, and they're all one draw call. The whole map is like 50 draw calls for the entire thing. But the cool thing that happened in here, in this version of it, and Emission is still a public map, but I have to update it, was that we had Waifu Baby's first live concert here, and we worked with Digi to like build some of the lore for the character before they split as a team. And if you go through this wall and look up as you cross the barrier into the sand, you'll see something cool.
Oh.
So in this map, we have three or four video players. One of them drives the lighting. One of them drove audio from Giga, so the ship has an audio source that moves around with it, and so it was piped into like a chat bot in the Twitch chat. And so it was like the voice of God coming in from the ship, where he would like egg her on or make fun of her, or respond to chat or whatever during the live concert. Then we have a 3D camera that is set up in a special 3D screen that sort of floats here that does an alpha cut, and you can put 3D videos in the middle and you can actually see them in 3D, which is pretty cool. So it also follows your head, and as you move around in this area, like Waifu looks 3D. So for anyone who's ever seen it, like she looks completely 3D. And you can't tell that she's not like an actual model. I can demo this for you. It won't look too great for your viewers, but I can get behind here and throw a video in. I'll do that real quick.
I'm gonna keep the audio off. I don't make that mistake twice.
God, I wish I had my headset on. This would be so fucking cool.
It is very cool. You're missing out a lot being a deskie.
So this is just the background. So we have one video player for just the background part. See how these are like SBS, like these two are side by side?
Yep.
So we can take this video and watch this. So it looks really good from right about here.
Alrighty.
Especially in VR. It looks super good.
Oh, wow. That does look really good.
So this was all Shadow River. But you'll see, like, if you're at the right distance, you know, everything has depth, right? and anything black is invisible. So if you can imagine, especially from right where I'm standing, like right here, this is the absolute best vantage point, is right there. It's really hard to like see it, you know, like obviously you can't see it through the camera, but
Oh no.
looking at this is just, but it's really, really cool to see in 3D, right?
Yeah.
Because it looks like it's like right there. So this is using essentially just the distance. We get the distance between your eyes, and we just draw on it directly at distance. And then, so if you can imagine, waifu was standing there fully cut out, right? It's pretty great.
Oh, how long did that take to figure out and do with the? 3D?
We put it all together, and I think we put it all like, so this is not a complicated shader, as Shadow whoever would say. But we put all this together, like this whole concert together, probably in 3 months. Like from the start to the end. I can actually pull up the concert as well. Let me just do that real quick. I'll show you that, and then we'll move on. But let me show you that.
I'm a snake. That's dope. You guys are missing a lot in that big hair in VR.
Yeah, I know. I'll have to come in here in VR.
So on the stage here is actually what it looked like. If you come around the corner here, you can actually see. So that was her on stage, but she was just a 2D cutout.
Oh, really?
And she was even affected by the world lighting and everything. And you'll notice the audio link is using AC Chosen system up here. We got these little UFOs up here, and then her logo behind you, like all of those UVs light up, and they're all audio linked, and it was all themed for her. We did 2 concerts here. This one was a lot of fun. Again, virtually did all the design. She did all the modeling from scratch for this. We did a little video explaining how this thing happened. We did this concert as well, and it was a lot of fun. A huge thanks to Digitrifix too, because he did so much of the like concept of this concert and everything, right? And she even you'll notice here she even transforms into Onifu in real time, and then we even had the dancers set up so that based on what model she was in, Digi remotely could control via the video stream which background dancers were there, whether they were Onifus or waifu bots. And that sound you heard there, the talking, that was the bot from up here.
Oh, I have world audio off just to prevent clapping.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, this one probably not too much of an issue because they're just, I think she's got a lot of them set up that way. It sounds amazing. But this, eventually she started dancing, and then we turned on the background dancers, and you'll actually see them come in with audio link. Mm-hmm. And they're following about 1 second behind her, and there's 3 video players over here, and all 3 of them were required to make it work. So,
oh wow,
it was pretty wild. But yeah, this was the live concert, and this was all shot live. You can find this on our YouTube too. If you just look up like Waifu Baby 2021 VR concert, you'll find this stuff. So that was a fun one to work on. There's some cool stuff in here too. Like I got a bunch of buttons for like stage effects and fireworks. Hold on. And this is like 3.5 years ago, right? So, so this is like fireworks like that, and then, there's like flowers and clothes like that, all kinds of stuff. So it's all like really early, right? Early day stuff. There's her dancers. You can actually kind of see them, right?
Yeah, you can. That looks really awesome.
Yeah. So those weren't real. They were like essentially shader generated, right? But they're like, it's a mesh that's being moved by a video player that's like hidden from the users, right? But they're just but that was all done live, like all performed live. So she's moving in a Xsense motion capture suit in a studio in New York, broadcasting into a live stream, which was then being brought into VRChat. And then the background dancers were picking that up and being animated separately, about a second behind. And then she was singing live into the stage, and everyone else was experiencing it, like a second or 2 later. So pretty crazy. She cracked 1,000 viewers.
How many people did it take to prevent latency and all those issues with VR?
Oh, no problem. Yeah, we actually, this was one of the earliest uses, I would say, of VRCDN. I remember Jazzy coming in here and going, "What are you doing?" because there was like so many streams being picked up. But they were pretty low resolution. Like so the movement streams are only like 640 by 480, and you only needed to do it like for a couple of main rooms. So we had like a VIP instance, but this was being rebroadcast too. That was the cool part. It's like you could come in here in Quest or come in PC, and there was as many instances as you could ever want, and they were all watching it live. So,
Oh, wow.
and Muzzfest did that later on again as well. Sort of same deal. It was pretty fun. But this was something that was fun to work on. It didn't take much. Like there was no real latency going on there, so it wasn't bad. There was like it wasn't like we did have some issues with the PKC show. We also did one here at the early version of Club Emission, and we got front paged on Twitch thanks to Chato Sensei when he was working there. And so he front paged us, and we had 5,000 viewers, I think, live for that day. And then an equal number of people tried to get into VRChat, and unfortunately, VRChat's ribbon menu couldn't handle it at the time. And I don't know if it was just us. I think there was other events going on too at the same time, but it really taxed the system. And we were having issues having multiple users in the same world, and it was rough. So I'm happy to say that some of the events that I was able to concept had helped crash VRChat, so that was fun. So it was like it was pretty cool. But no, this whole stage has a really fun concept behind it. Like this, we had this thing called like the Rift engine, and it was an interdimensional power system for this map. Like I love the idea of having like a concept. Like a club world is cool. I mean, it's even cooler if it exists in reality as well, like Stabby's syntax error. But it's also cool to have like a concept behind it and tell a story. You know what I mean?
Okay. So how many of these events did you when building these events did you learn from, and how long did it take for to implement those learnings?
We learned something from all. Yeah, we learned something from every single one. Like the very first event with Miyavi was pre-Udon. But I had early access to the beta, so Udon was being released around the same time as VKet 4, VKet 5. So I was able to implement Udon stuff from the closed beta, and I was able to build something out. But I essentially just did like a sequence of video players that would turn off and on, off and on, off and on as each particle system went through, rather than doing it on timeline, which is something I did later. So I started with that, and then learned how to do 360 3D video. In fact, I can show you that. This is another world of mine. A really, really early concept. I tend to concept things out in a weird way. So this one's. It's good for Halloween. This is one of the first 3D 360 videos that was released for VR in the early days.
Oh.
This is a bit disorienting. I apologize. But it's at distance 3D 360. So if I guess on camera you can see it, like if you look all around in all directions, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of like linear. It's non-linear spaced, right? It's all one directional. But this was like designed when headsets didn't have 6DoF. So you would sit down right there, in this bloody chair and look around, and all kinds of spooky stuff would happen around you in real time. Like you'd have like a clown over your shoulder and somebody being dragged out bloody in here. It's good for Halloween. But this was like a 3D 360 world, and I wrote a little shader that based on VRChat's 360 shader, and to make it Quest compatible. And then I used this to build the Miyavi show. So I've learned something from everything, that we've done over the years, right? Like, because it all led to something. I was like, okay, try an experiment real quick. Put this out in an afternoon in like 3 or 4 hours, and then now we can use it in production. And these are all things that super fun. You've probably got a clown eating your face right now at the end of this thing. Like,
hi, clown.
Yeah. But yeah, this was the Vooz VR Cinema. Yep, map. And some of these maps like get pretty popular. I think this one's got like 52,000 views. These little old hidden like funsy things that we've done over the years. But I think I've learned something from every map I've ever worked on. And then later on it became like learning other people's prefabs and all the cool stuff that they built. So, you just try dumb stuff and you get a concept together, and then you meet a lot of other people who are way better at it than you. It just like starts to get to this really interesting spot where you get to collaborate with all kinds of cool people. I would say that I've learned something from every map I've worked on over the years, whether it's optimization for video streaming stuff, which that's something I knew a little bit before this. In my day job, I do digital out-of-home advertising, and like government contract digital signage, corporate communication stuff, video streaming, and other things like that, codecs and custom SoC development and things like that. But bringing it into VR is a whole different ballgame. You know what I mean?
How so?
And so, yeah, well, you have to think about lowest common denominators, and if you can make something work on like the lowest of the low, like an old Android phone or a Quest 1, if you can make stuff work on that, then you can do anything, right? And if you can make it look good on that hardware, then you can do anything. So, bringing streaming video in and knowing techniques to do that is tough. And then what you can do with that earlier technology, especially with like what's available in Unity. Like here's a really good example too. I'll toss a portal over there. This is actually my home world.
Oh, really?
But yeah. What it is essentially is just like a real-time lighting test. And it has like an older. I don't know if that video player is going to work, but it has an older. Oh, maybe it is. It's got an older real-time enlightened lighting effect in here, so it's a little less obvious than it should be. But this lighting, the lighting in here will change based on the screen, but in a really intense way. So there's a light in the corner here as well, but like it's actually real-time light probes using like the old like real-time like CPU-driven light probe effect. Then there's also like real-time reflections in the entire room. So like if you look at here, like in these little things, like they've all got a reflection and they're reflecting the screen and reflecting you and reflecting everything else. It's quite performant actually too, which is pretty nice. But these are like old tricks by like going back to an old Unity version and then baking a special kind of light map and then writing a script to move it forward into the new version of Unity. And then, so these are all like little experiments that this map was made to show someone something. Right. It wasn't really like meant to be released as anything, but like that's the kind of stuff that I end up doing a lot of. Like, here's this technique, you can try this thing, and then it gets picked up and taken somewhere else, like into another project, or it becomes part of another project, which is really cool. So there's some other like there's like one prefab in here that was somebody else. Like this is Merlin's original video player, and then I'm pretty sure this is like Xishi's like LCD screen shader. So like on here, you can actually see the pixels just like a real screen. And that's used all over the place now in VRChat. But this was like, it's neat to have like a real-time lighting, right? So if I was to switch back to that video we were looking at earlier, for example, you'll see how the world lighting will change based on the video itself that I load. So you'll notice it goes kind of white, and then it goes dark, kind of purple. Right, so the whole world's lighting will change, and it actually doesn't matter what shader you have on your avatar unless you're fully unlit. It'll just pick up the lighting in here, which is kind of nice. And that's a technique that I wish was used a little bit more often. LTCGI does like a post-processing effect that's kind of close, but where you can really tell that it's different is how this changes. The floor actually changes, and the lighting on that actually changes. And there's lots of cool techniques like that come from like old school Unity stuff that I wish more people did.
Oh. I think I've seen some of the new media players use reflective techniques as well.
Yeah, they all use LTCGI, which is by Pi. And that technique is very different. This is like Unity's light probes, like directly, like CPU and light probe. So very, very different. This is like an old technique. It used to be pretty heavy on the CPU, and it still kind of is. VRChat is very CPU heavy in general, so. This technique isn't as optimal anymore, but it's fine. It looks cool. But like I guess the point of bringing you here was like these kind of like ideas. That's the kind of stuff that I'm able to like learn from and try these things, like tiny experiments like this that take an afternoon or 3 hours to build, and then throw that at a team and then work stuff. I think.
Okay.
I think that's where most of it comes from.
All right. So, again, with Vket, what have been some of the most fun things you've appreciated or enjoyed doing with Vket, or some of the events or directly?
VketReal, I think. VketReal, definitely. So we took the regular convention, and I got to go to the first one. And I've been honored that they've essentially comped my flight out there every time, which is really nice. And being able to see Vket go from 500,000 to 1 million to like almost 2 million people in VR. This big convention, you know, breaking 4 Guinness World Records, doing all this other stuff, winning a bunch of awards. That's always fun. But seeing it turn into a real convention was nuts. And being able to walk around that convention and meet these people and like in person for the first time, and to essentially build the world's first VR convention, was such a cool thing. And then we're very blessed to have this person named Ponda, who comes from a Japanese community where he builds they're like a 3D scanning community, and they build 3D scans of all the events. And I can actually walk you through VketReal thanks to him. So a member of the community has built this, and I was there at every booth, so I can talk about my experiences there and seeing it kind of come from where it was. This is an incredible map, and I highly recommend checking it out. It's big though, so
Okay. Hello, I'm here to interrupt your current video. Ask you a favor. Down in the description, down that way, is a link, metaversedegen.card.co, which you have a whole bunch of other places. If you wish to continue following us, we have Twitter, which I run for us, which you get updates and other stuff and random thoughts from me. We have a Discord where Raptor, I, and the entire crew and all the other people we know will be over there hanging out. We game there fairly regularly or hang out in there, so feel free to go over that way and come chat with us. We'd love to meet you. We have a Spotify now. Surprise. Everything from a couple weeks ago forward, we'll have our Spotify content on Fridays. If I remember, we'll put some of our old content forward, but we're going to keep up with our current content on Spotify. So if you wish to watch it there or listen to it there, it'll be there for you as well. Also, we have a Patreon, which we have a whole other show, which we haven't been keeping up with, but we're doing our best. But we have a whole other show there for you as well. We would like to give a huge thanks to some of our supporters over that way, which is Future Oracle, Aleekwum, Niche, and Forbidden Zero, all of which we thank you very much for everything, and hopefully we'll see you around and you continue to enjoy the content. Enjoy the current video. Oh boy.
So I think this might be a smaller version of it, but that's fine too. So what we're looking at is essentially like a to scale representation of a street in Akihabara. That would be big camera across the way, but this was the first VketReal. So this was where we took our convention like in VR and turned it into a real convention in the real world. And again, it was scanned by these 3 people. So just having fans who are like really, really, really passionate like this to go around and take pictures of everything was just the coolest thing in the world. Having a truck driving around with pictures of us on it was also kind of amazing. We actually have avatars of all of these trucks, by the way. But this truck drove around Akiba. And I remember the day after we arrived in Tokyo, we went to Kyoto first and hung out there a little bit and visited Kyoto and saw some stuff and met Chad for the first time. And then just before the event was to happen, a couple of days before it was to happen, we stayed near Akihabara. And we went to Denny's, of all places, for breakfast. And we came out of the Denny's, and this fucking truck was driving by, this literal truck, driving by downtown Japan. We're walking out of the Denny's, and we're like, oh my god, it's the VKet truck. And so we immediately whipped out the cameras and started taking pictures and videos, and we couldn't believe it. But like, it was so cool to see, essentially, like a real diesel truck driving around Japan with this flatbed and its VR chat avatars. And this, for a lot of people in Japan, this is like the first time they'd ever seen this. And we did this campaign to collect pictures of everybody. And so we put up a Google form and we got everybody to like add these pictures. And then we put them all together and then we created this like really cool graphic. And then for a week straight, this truck drove around Akihabara and like Shinjuku, advertising this event, and you would see it go by every 15 minutes, blasting our theme song. And it was just like, it was the most surreal thing to see in person, like that it ever happened to me. It's like, holy shit, I helped build this thing, and it felt so cool. It felt so cool to be even a part of this, like even a small part of this. But I mean, I know I've got a bigger role here, but it still feels like I'm small fry compared to everybody else. But this was Belsal in Akihabara, and this is like a scan of the front of it. And you might recognize some folks in here like Omega Sisters, and you got Game Vket Chan over here. All these different, Vket Channel 2 on this side. and all these different people who who are part of virtual market. A bunch of people got selected. This game over here is called Avatar Meets, and one avatar I made actually made it into this, which is really cool. So for April Fools a few years ago, we like to put out these April Fools avatars. And one character that's pervasive in VKet is this guy named Gourmand, and he's like this guy who likes to eat a big chunky like mayor of a city or whatever. He ends up being the villain in a bunch of maps, which is like the secret villain in a bunch of maps. It's kind of funny. So for April Fools, like a few years ago, I think in 2021. We were teasing Vket 3, and it ended up being I just took the Gourmand avatar and like I stuck Vket plus his outfit on him, and it became Gourmand Vket. And it was just like him wearing the Vket like big fat guy with a mustache, and that's sort of like that joke. Like they weren't really planning on doing anything for. They were gonna like release a pic, like an image of him on the website, like wearing the outfit, but I went a step ahead, and like in one night I put this avatar together and like released it in the Discord, and everybody was like, "Oh my god, this is fucking hilarious!" And they like made it like a download and everything. And so since then, he's been used a bunch of times. And in here we have this system called Avatar Meets, and it uses Azure Connects, and they're pointing at you with like the time of flight lasers and stuff. And we have these April tags, and you put them around your neck, and when you wear them, it transforms you, and you're standing on this like standable LCD screen, and it transforms you into one of the characters. And if you put on the right one, you get Gourmand Vket, which is just the best. Like it's like, oh, I made that avatar, and like now it's like there's like 50,000 people that have like walked through here and seen people like playing with him. And you can like you can dance around, and like we did a taiko drumming thing. Last time where you would like taiko drum, and it was like a sequence, and you had to like set the drums on fire, and then you would get like a omomori fortune at the end, and they would like print it out and hand it to you. But like this is a full like, interactive LCD screen that goes from all the way from here all the way up to the back, and then we have all these April tags that transform you into all these different characters, which is like super cool. We also did a game here where you were wearing a Quest Pro, and there was like a paper watermelon and a stick. And the idea was that you were in third person above yourself, and you had to like kind of walk yourself over, kind of like wearing blindfold and hitting a wall, like a Suika game, right? You hit the watermelon. But you did it in a Quest Pro from third person, but you could see your physical position as Vket and then whack the watermelon, right? So that game was here. So this is like an interactive game that you could play. It's a little hard to see. This scan isn't as good as some of the others, but not too bad. This was like the entrance area with our standees here. This one was fun. Over here, we had a smell-o-vision system and an interactive game that was an interactive game that was made in VRchat. So this was made by Candy Milk, who made Balmer.io. He built a game for us, and again, it was a standable LCD screen, and you would get up on here, and there was 2 players. Each of you had a HTC Vive controller, and you would shoot people trying to destroy your sandcastle with super soakers. So they were like in VRchat trying to shoot at your sandcastle, and you were defending the sandcastle from them. So using your HTC Vive ones, and it had like a delay, and there was like a little water cannon, and you could control it. If you lost, we sprayed you with a CO2 cannon. So we had this like big CO2 cannon in the corner here, in both corners, and it would blast you with a CO2 cannon. And if you won, of course, you won. But over here, which is kind of neat, so it's the shot bar, seaside, and water fight. So the shot bar part was we had all these like kind of pretty famous VTubers or like VKet ambassadors from 2023 serving you drinks. And we had these 3D screens here that were set up in VRchat. And we had over top here, it's kind of hard to see, but there was fans, and over top was this like smell-o-vision system. So you would order a drink, and then it would waft the scent of the drink over top of you as you sat here and ordered it. So in VRchat, cool. They would make you the drink, and they would put it in front of you. You'd see it in 3D, and then you could smell it, which was like, because glass is free 3D screen. I mean, why not? It was pretty cool. What else? So we also have a partnership with a company called Belk. And they make these. I've got one of these drinks above my computer right there. But we had these stickers, like exclusive stickers and designs that were done by famous artists, and I drank way too many of those, like so much caffeine. Like way too much caffeine. The best part about Bark energy drink is this 200 milligrams of caffeine, right? So it's pretty crazy. What else is here? We had JRA. These guys are Japan's racing association, like horse racing, and they had an animatronic horse. There's videos of this. It looked like a real horse, and there was like a real looking pony over here too, but they were just animatronic. You could get on them and then play a horse racing game with a headset on, but like sitting on the horse. And it felt real, looked real. In pictures, it looked real. It was freaking crazy. We also had this merch booth over here, and there was like a snake of people every day, and we sold practically everything out. Like this here says sold out, and all of these were like just over the products on the first day. We sold 8,000 items that day, so
Holy
I bought a
shit.
lot of t-shirts. It was pretty insane. What else is over here? So Canon had a booth. They have a 3D lens system that you probably saw in VKet 2023. There's Gourmand's Standy over here. This is him. Just imagine him, but wearing VKet Chen stuff. That was the April Fool's joke I put together. And then on this wall is signatures of everybody who attended. We didn't give people enough wall.
Oh.
Eventually it got to the point where so many people showed up for this thing that they were writing over here and writing under the table and writing like all over here. It was pretty amazing. And you'll see a lot of like cool names. So Chato Sensei, being kind of a tall guy, he always like, does the Gaijin signature up there. And so he put his up there. And then mine is, I think mine's over in this general area somewhere. I have a very distinct signature, but it's kind of hard to find. But you'll see like there's a lot of like really cool like VR chat. There it is. A lot of really cool like VR chat in jokes in here. Like they're like join Pico-san and Yui. And they do like little drawings and all kinds of cool stuff, right? There's also a mirror here, like a local mirror. But that fish that was really popular that year, there's a lot of little drawings of that. And we Ponda did a thing in here where you could like write your signature on the wall as well. But you can see like all the little markers and crushed cans of energy drinks that were over here. We were really tired. It was stupid hot. Like it must have been 38 degrees and 78% humidity all 3 days. Like it was unbelievably nuts. Like we were dying. Tokyo Mari was in here. A bunch of VTuber groups. This was the Hikky booth. So I got to work this booth a little bit. One fun thing about this is I actually plugged in a lot of the computers. So I was here on the Thursday night with Nanana-san from Hikky. And we came in here like on Thursday, early in the morning, like 8 o'clock. And we started getting computers from across the street. There's a place called, I can't remember the Gala. A place called Gala across the street that does PCs. And we brought them in and started setting them up. So like this pilot booth here, I actually plugged in every computer underneath here and they were all overheating. So like I turned them all sideways and took the backs off of them like so that they would like let the heat out from the inside. And I've got pictures of me like inside in between the booths here and just running cables, like Ethernet cables behind all of this. I've got a video, all of these little posters on the wall here of my wife, like taking the posters, and we had a production line of people would tear off a piece of tape, and then one person would roll it and then hand it to the next person. My wife would like stick it on the back of the poster, and we just had this big production line of people putting tape up and then slapping those posters on the wall over there, because all these people sign up afterwards, and we put all these community posters up, and these are mostly like community groups and other things in VR chat. Like it's not like corporate stuff. These are just posters of like Japanese communities, right? So they all got in here, and we got to slap up their posters, and it was really fun. And she put up like every one of these, so it was really cool. Down here as well, there's a whole other like downstairs section, and down here is where it really counts. So that's all the corporate stuff. And down here was the PKCZ creators booth. I also helped plug all these in, all the computers down here. And this wall is super awesome because everyone had to line up to get into this area. Eventually, you had to start taking wristbands and stuff, but and they got to like see this history of the company sort of as it evolved, and like winning like the Guinness World Record and the AXR record and all this stuff, and building Unlink with Mokapi and Sony, and then just sort of like working out to VketReal, right? And then over here we had this section where you could like put down your phone and take a picture with like different characters. There's Ponda there who made this map. But this room I spent a lot of time in, and it actually had two different groups of people. that came in here, so that I don't think they captured both days this time. In the first time they did VketReal, but all of these computers, like me and no plugged in along here, and these were all regular users in VRChat who did like worlds or other items, and they had real world items, and they built out like these booths to talk about what they did. Like Arashukai, Fururan, who's our UC team lead on the JP side, is like right here. There's like a virtual high school group over here. This is Mokuri project, which is pretty near and dear to me as well. And we own that IP. Mokuri is made by Akihiro Tsukushi, who made Made in Abyss, and he designed all the characters for it.
really?
And so that's an IP that we own, like a furry character that we own. Over here is like Peanuts-kun, who is super famous, and all of these people, like VTubers, are like super famous. Also over here, there was like a VRChat Movie Awards that happened at the same time. This was a working robot, which they came back multiple times, but as you can see, it's controlled by an avatar over OSC.
Oh.
And this freaking robot, like, literally got up and moved, and it was incredible. There's a cockpit in there as well, like you can see the seat, right? And there's a cockpit, like it's a literal Gundam.
Holy shit.
Powered by a VRChat avatar. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
That's dope.
Yeah, it was cool to see in person, man. I got so many videos. Really cool to see in person. Everybody wanted to get in there and sit in. They're all like, no, like it's not for you, but it was fun. This was a series of like musical albums that were done by some of the people who did the background music for VKet. And we hire people to do that every year. 3D screens and all kinds of cool stuff. So the PKCZ creators are really fun. We also collaborate with a bunch of bars and pubs at the same time. So this was a lot of fun to go to. You ever watch the show Pop Team Epic or seen the anime Pop Team Epic?
I'm not sure I have.
So the art, it's pretty famous, but the artist behind Pop Team Epic is the one who did the art for this, which was a special collaboration we did at British Pub in Japan, and we had special like Vket-chan themed drinks, and these were all the coasters you would get if you'd order one. I had way too many of these, to be honest. Like, it was pretty good. Good fish and chips. Way too many beers, I'll say. But like we had like an AR journey, and like these were all like the special collaborative goods you could get, and I'm working on a scrapbook now of the 3 VketReals I've been to. And it was really fun. On this first one, we also did an event at a club called NTAS. I got to take the group photo at the end, which was really nice. And it was like a Music VKet themed event that we did together, where we had Amoka and Johnny Henry and Kagetora and a bunch of other cool people like DJing. We had the boys from IDA, boys and girls from IDA, breakdancing, and I got to do a breakdance circle with them, which was like super cool. So doing this kind of like going from VRChat, and like early MMD, like communities like prefabs to being able to do VKet and then being able to turn it into this real world event was like, oh my God, like, like look how far it's come, from what it was. And I think in here we might have, let me see. There's some old VKet stuff in here that Ponda's stuck in here maybe, but this is just a video player with a bunch of cool stuff. Yeah, I'm not even sure. Let me see what's in here. Oh yeah, this is old. But these are like just different videos. Like this is like Roboco and other stuff from like the early days. But like there's all kinds of really cool videos in there, like the history of VKet down here. And we had a stage. We had live sushi cutting and people doing stage shows and concerts, and it was amazing. So and we had Vket-chan, and we had the bunch of people from VRChat here, and then we did it again 2 more times. And it got bigger and it got bigger and it got bigger, and it was nuts. So the next one we did was at Harajuku and Shibuya. This map is really big, so you might want to. We can just preload it. So if you click on it and then hit preload in VRChat, you can actually download it. It's over a gig, so point at the map and then click it and then click preload world before we go there, and we can keep talking while it loads. So this one was huge. This was the winter time, and it was in Harajuku, and we took over like all of Takeshita Street and like 4 different venues inside Takeshita Street, and then Ponda managed to scan the whole damn thing. So as you can see, like walking through this, like I have a lot of memories in here because going to it in person is just something that is just mind blowing that you get to be part of it, right? Apparently they also scanned the fish and chips, kind of cool. So I definitely had some of those, right? But while we wait. So one thing about Hub British Pub in Japan is that this is where like a lot of expats go to hang out. It clinks, by the way.
Oh.
Yeah, it actually clinks. A lot of expats go to hang out there, and also VR chatters have a tendency to hang out at pub for some reason. And it became this tradition where you take like you saw over there with the cameras, with your phone, you put your phones down and you get some pictures. So I've started getting a collection now of all these really cool creators in VR chat that I've met, like EasyMochi from Okari Game Studios and Torneko from Putemute/Tokipona. Like he's the person who put the Tokipona language in VR chat's menu, for example. And I got to meet just all these incredible creators like Savvy Chap from Project Einkrad, and got to meet them in person and hang out with them and like actually get to know them, or like Wunversky from the XRC. Like they have an accredited college that does their classes in VR chat, and getting to meet him in person, interview him at a VketReal booth was just incredible, because you see all this stuff in VR chat, people don't really see it as real, but when you give them an interview of a real person talking about a real thing and all these thousands of people that have come and see their stuff, it's so different, you know. And then it really like it hits home for the normies, I think, and that I find really exciting. I'm sure that world is now
Yep, it's
loaded for you,
preloaded.
so let's go check out Shibuhara. That world is chunky. It doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah, that world said we
So-
don't have access to it, which is the all right.
Really?
Yeah, it wouldn't let us even
That's
go in.
weird. Oh, so maybe it's not on your I don't even know how that would be. It's over a gig. It loads, but perhaps it's looking at your available VMem and then making it so you can't go in. I have to see. It's big. It's very big. Like it's over a gig, right? So it's the entire. What's cool is that they scanned every location in there as well, much like this world, and but like every location of VketReal. So I guess we can always look at something else, but that's a fun one. I do recommend trying to get in there if you can. All of Ponda's worlds are incredible, and it's nice of him to scan all of that stuff, because for me it's like a great memory bank to go back to all of those, you know, live events. And then I had the opportunity to go to TwitchCon as well, and seeing how much Vket meant to a lot of people was really cool as well. And that they knew me was also like one of the craziest things I've ever experienced in my life. Like people were seeking me out and they're like, oh my God, you know, Virtual Market. I love Virtual Market. I can't believe you guys are here. And that was like such a cool thing. So we gave out these like flyers with early access for streamers. And that I have a whole story about that as well. San Diego is not Japan, let me tell you. I'd much rather go to Japan for a convention than go to San Diego's TwitchCon. I don't know if you went or anyone
did
you
not.
know went, but it was I guess the Metaverse Degen podcast is probably the best time to tell this story. So I decided on Tuesday before TwitchCon, which was on Friday and Saturday, I guess it was Thursday too, that I would go for Friday or Saturday. And so I had to do a lot of like legal insurance stuff as a Canadian, working for a Japanese company, going to America to be able to even go to TwitchCon. So I needed to get like business liability insurance and regular insurance and a bunch of other stuff, travel insurance. And that took a while, and I had to get contracts signed and do a bunch of things. And I finally got there. It was a lot of stress. I pulled a bunch of 21-hour days at that point. Eventually got there. So I get on my plane. I fly over to San Diego, and originally my daughter and or my wife was going to come with me, so I would have had a nicer hotel with 2 beds. And to save costs, because they got cold feet or she got sick, or I forget what exactly the reason was, she wasn't coming with me. I got a different hotel, and I went and got a hotel in National City. So if you know anything about San Diego, National City is not the safest place in the world, I would say. And we ended up, so I ended up there, and I get off my plane. I get in a cab. I tell him where we're going, and he gets kind of quiet. I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. The cabbie's very kind of quiet. And as we're pulling up, he goes, you know, this area's got a lot of hookers, right? And I'm like, okay. And you know, he's driving around the building, like trying to find an interesting place to kind of pull in. And I don't know why he's not going to the front. It doesn't really make sense to me. He's like, oh, don't worry. I'm just trying to find you like safe entrance and stuff. I'm like, okay. And eventually he decides he has to pull up to the front. So he wasn't wrong. There was like a lot of hookers on the street, and that would have been okay if it was just that. But I walk in and there's a lot of people doing karaoke, and I can smell something that isn't weed being smoked, and there's a lot of alcohol going around, and I look over and they're all wearing leather jackets. And I think that's a little weird. And they're not regular leather jackets, they're vests. So, you know, I walk up and the young guy behind the counter, he goes, "You must be Dylan Brown." I'm like, "Okay, what? How did you recognize me?" Turns out I'm the only white guy in the bar. And that normally that doesn't bother me. That's fine, you know. But you came down here by yourself, he says. And I go, "Yeah." And he goes, "Respect." And I'm like, what? At this point, I realized that a 1% biker gang had booked the entire hotel.
Oh.
And this is a Ramada. This is a Ramada. You'd think it was okay. It was the Winford Ramada in National City. No, the entire hotel was booked up by Chosen Few.
Oh.
Chosen Few is a notorious outlaw biker gang from San Diego, founded in 1958, the first mixed race biker gang ever. So I guess of all the 1%er outlaw biker gangs that you could possibly be shacking up with in a hotel, it was probably the best one. But as a weird white dude wearing an anime t-shirt from Canada, all by himself with $4,000 worth of VTubing gear in his backpack, it wasn't the greatest time. That was my Friday. I needed to get a lot of flyers printed for TwitchCon that day. It was fun, but I got out of that hotel pretty fast. So,
sure.
You know, I immediately didn't lock the door. I left all my stuff on. I'm flipping up the blankets with my flashlight and looking under the bed. I'm opening the drawers in the bathroom and making sure there's nobody hiding with an AK in there. And you know, eventually I'm like, okay, the room's empty. Lock the door, realize the deadbolt is just drilled into the decorative trim on the inside, and then the door's hinges are on the outside. The glass was probably the thinnest glass I've ever seen in my life, and I realized that they had upgraded my room so that I was next to the fire escape and could see the parking lot. I realized later that that was because they wanted me to know when they left so that I could leave safely as well.
Oh.
So somebody at the hotel was thinking about this one dude who had the one room and the rest of the biker gangs didn't have. And they had cleaned it really nice. So anyway, so I called a lift at 7 o'clock in the morning. I didn't manage to unpack anything. I didn't manage to get any of my flyers printed. I was hoping to walk down to a Kinko's and get like 1,000 flyers done, you know, like at like 10 cents a page or something. I ended up having to print them at the hotel for like $1.50 a page, which was not the greatest, but you know, I call a lift at 7:30 in the morning, you know, and I've got all my stuff on, and I'm waiting, I'm watching him on the little GPS as he comes down, and like I go down 7 flights of a fire escape and leave. Like, and the guy's on the phone in the car with his 7-year-old son. "Oh yeah, Daddy's okay. Yeah, you can play Fortnite. There's ice cream in the fridge." You could tell he was scared. And eventually he realized I was going to TwitchCon, and he realized I wasn't some sort of like, I don't know, like Canadian drug runner or something. But that was like the scariest convention story of my life. Huge contrast to going to VketReal in Japan, where you could fall asleep in the middle of the highway and they would just put road cones around you, you know, and it would be totally fine. So like they wouldn't care.
Okay.
Genuinely scared for my life at that point. So
I don't blame you for liking VketReal more now. I don't blame you at all.
TwitchCon was fine. I mean, at least at VketReal, you don't hear stories about people getting roofied at tech bro parties for stream extensions like that. That stuff is scary, man. America is not Japan. I will say this. But as the representative of the Western side of VKet, I will say that Western people love anime. So seeing TwitchCon go from like a streamer convention, Twitch, to like 50% VTubers, and then 3 days later for Iron Mouse to like crack the top 10 and then top 3, and then to be the most subscribed person on Twitch was like really, really, really cool. And we got to see her walking around that convention, and I met a lot of really cool people there as well. Speaking of cool VR chat people, have you guys ever been a drinking night in VR chat? You know, you're in the mix with Rob Roman's voice, blah blah blah. Yeah, I'm sure you've been there before. Rob was there at Music VKet 0 and is part of the reason that we were able to do Miyavi and Music VKet 2 and all the other cool stuff, because we threw a really cool party with Miss Stabby at Syntax Error. And if you go to Syntax Error Stockholm, which is the club she put together, which is a real place in Stockholm, Sweden, there's a button for VKet, and you can like transform the whole club into like VKet music VKet style, which is like really really cool. But he was one of the first DJs ever to play at that event, along with
wow.
Lumi and Uzi Jacuzzi and a bunch of other people. And Rob has been like he was a like a DJ with iHeartRadio for I think 18 years. And so he knows this stuff, and he's been DJing in VRChat for a very long time, and you know, getting to meet him in person at TwitchCon, at the Dead Man's Party 3 at Wicked was just like, it was like one of the most cathartic experiences of my life. And you got to meet all these like really cool people, like Tallis was there, and everybody got to sign the poster. And I'm so blessed to be able to do this kind of stuff because of the things I've been doing in VRChat. Go and meet these people and be recognized and do those kinds of things. And I mean, I know I'm not the most famous person in the world, you know, but to be able to work with a group like VKet because of the connections that I've made over the years and all the cool things that we built, man, it's like, it's really cool. This place is such a cool place. Do you guys know the concept of a third place? Have you ever heard that before?
Third place? No. I don't think I have.
So the idea of a third place, if you look at like what a third place is, it's this it's not home and it's not work. It's this place you go to at the end of the day to like a good example of a third place is like a church or a pub that you go to. Like it's a social gathering place. So the home is the first place, right? Your workplace is your second place. A third place is like a church or a cafe or a bar, or like I don't know, like gyms, bookstores. You know, in the modern times, like a hacker space or like I don't know, like theaters or whatever. It's places to talk about like democracy or be engaged civically or like to work with a different community or like make connections. That's what VRChat is. That's really what VRChat is. And VRChat is a third place. It is one of the coolest, modernist, most interesting third places that exists. And going from you know, from its very early days as like a social platform, but like with this immersive VR focus, even from then, like I said, like I only learned to use desktop mode because of Cyanemu, right? I started in a headset. I never used the desktop version of the game. At one time there wasn't one. So it felt from the beginning like a third place. And when we talk about worlds we go to in VR chats, we don't talk about I played VR chat and loaded this person's map. We say I went to Shelter, or I went to VKet, or I went to Project Fest, or I went to HorrorCon. And you can, you know, you say I went to this map and hung out with these people. And you don't describe it as if you were playing a video game. You describe it as if you were hanging out with these people in a place, right? So it is a third place in the best sense. And then it was able to build something like VketReal. And it was able to build something like VKet. It was able to build something like Sanrio VFest. It was able to build something like Venice Immersive or Rain Dance or you know, or VRCon or Project Fest or any of these other cool events that have come out here. Slyfest has done real world events. It spawned products and accessories and wanting eye tracking and mouth tracking and full body tracking, and all of these products exist because of VRChat. It's not because HTC had its own product, really, not really, no. They built this for VRChat and for VTubers and other people like experiencing these virtual avatar embodiment stuff. And that became this third place. So a lot of us socialize there. And I guess I'm living proof that you can go from just hanging out in VRChat to like getting flown all over the world and meeting people that you've met in here to do really cool stuff. And Rob was able to throw parties, and Fillion was able to make her entire career, and so did a lot of other people, right? The technology that made Kizuna Eye possible is the same technology that makes hanging out in VRChat possible, and so does like people like Mirai Akari in the early days. And Digitrevik's a VRChat player, and he's been playing since the early days too. Like he's one of the first people I met in here. So you know, he also made Mirai Akari, which is considered one of the four kings, the original four kings of 3D VTubing. And you know, he also has made like one of our VKet ambassadors now. He built a Yumi Onesan's avatar, for example, and many other people like Waifu you saw earlier. Well, she's got some other modeler now but like he started that. He also started Project Melody, to be honest. So, but these people building things together and just seeing what's possible, thanks to these social spaces and things like MMD and those communities that sprout up, it becomes a third place. And this is my third place, you know? Yeah. and I'm able to take that and I'm living proof that you can go beyond this and become something else. We've seen it happen multiple times with places like Club Kaiju with Peppercast XR, and we've seen 403Cs appear in charitable organizations. We've seen people raise hundreds of thousands of dollars by streaming or hanging out in VR chat. We've seen pool tournaments and other games that have kind of grown from here, and other ways, that people have like built their careers. So I think the networking and the stuff you do in here is like way more important than people realize. And as someone who's been here from the beginning, yeah, it can become an entire company. So, hikky was able to build Vket based on the fact that there was people in here collaborating and building things together. And I think that can't be understated. People need to realize that this isn't just a game, for many people. It's a third place. And it, especially during the pandemic in 2020, especially during that whole period of time, it became where people would go instead. And I talk about third places being churches. There are churches in here, all the way down to that. There was actual pastors and stuff that used to hang out in here. And for the longest time, he would invite me every single Sunday to come to his sermon. But he was in here. And there's a lot of other folks doing that. There was a guy named Psych who was finishing his psychology degree and used to do therapy sessions in here. There's addiction counselors. There's, the kinds of things you'd find during the pandemic. They all sort of found their way into VR chat. Way better than a Zoom call, and put it that way, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. So how many events has Vket done since it reached into VR chat?
Okay, so we do 2 events a year. So from 2018, there's been 2 events a year. So Vket 5 was the first event in 2020, 2021, and then Vket 2021, which was Vket Winter, happened after that. So that would be 6 happened, then Vket 2021. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 17. There's been 17 events. And then on top of Comic Vket 0, 1, 2, and 3, and Music Vket 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now 6 coming up. On top of those events. And Game Vket. Also, we did a game jam. So many, many, more than I can count. And we've done sub events, and we've done all these like little indie maps, and we've done maps for people inside. Like there's the Messe Spa has their own map in here that we've done with them. There was the ChamberZ map with PKCZ and many other maps like that we built over the years too. Event-wise, yeah, we've done 17 mainline events, and then another, 10 or 15 side events as well with Comic and Music Vket and other events like that. There are hundreds of maps. And every Vket we do every 6 months or less in this case, there's anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 new assets that get brought into VR chat. So every popular avatar you've ever seen, for the most part, is a Vket exhibitor. Almost all of them. There's a small contingent of people like in Gumroad and stuff that kind of haven't figured us out yet, but we're getting to them. If I have anything to do with it, I'll make sure they come exhibit again, I think. That's what I do, right? That's my goal, is to get as many cool people building cool things to come see our convention and let the rest of the world see their stuff, because it's the best way to let people see it, right? So tons. Just an absolute butt ton. And I was there from the 4th one, so it feels pretty good.
So I have another question for you as well. How do you sell social VR to people who have never been in, like normies or people who have no idea this exists?
Honestly, the best thing in the world is to slap a headset on somebody. If you can find an excuse to like grab a Quest 2 or Quest 3 and just be like, plunk, check this thing out, and then show them something really immersive, like have it set up in like a Particle Live, like the ChamberZ one, or some other like really immersive thing, like put them in Organism or something cool like that, right? And you slap a headset on them, that's absolutely the best way. But I put everyone from like my grandmother down to my little brother and my daughter in VR, and I have a list of friends. You know how you can favorite your friends lists here in VR chat. I have 64 people in my RL friends list. And these are people who I've introduced and made them make a VR chat account and come hang out in here. And the best way is a headset. Otherwise, you gotta either show them the money, so like show them all of the crazy Vket sponsors, or just huge immersive, like sweeping things, or show them something that like has gotten onto TV, like something like the Jean-Michel Jarre concert that was seen 75 million times that was shot in VRChat. Or I made a whole thread about this last week, where I was talking about, like, on Thursday, all the different things that VRChat has been on television for. A good example is this in this Netflix special called Social Distance on episode 7. There's a whole section with VRChat. And then another really good one was the Resident Advisor Clubbing in VRChat, or PBS's Subcultured, where they showed like the club scene in VRChat with Joseph. Another really good one was We Met in VRChat, the HBO special. That was amazing. I also worked personally on a VRChat enabled experience for the show Lovecraft Country. I was a QA on and a specialist working on some of the ideas that they were working on for that. And that is the best way to show off VR, I think, is to put them in something that's familiar, but also not familiar. And then that way you show them that social experience. And the first time I ever put my mother-in-law, my wife's mother, into VRChat was during the release party for Joseph's PBS special, Subcultured, on VRChat's club scene. And I brought her into VRChat, put her in my basement, and said, here's a haptic vest, so you can feel the music, and here's a headset, and here's some hand controllers. And I spent 5 minutes teaching her how to do it, and then I brought her to that event because PBS is familiar to her, right? So that was the entry point. Like, here, you can meet all these people, and then she got to watch the documentary with the people who made the documentary, and then sit down and talk to them and say, yeah, this is what it's all about. These are all people, and like she has core memories of like talking to some of these VRChat DJ personalities. It's like, I love the little blue bunny guy, and that's how she remembers him. But, it's just, it's somebody we know as a DJ here in VRChat. I won't say who it is, but she remembers the little blue bunny guy, right? Like, and that's a core memory for her. She talks about it all the time. And then she came to Japan with us one year for VketReal 2023 and got to experience VketReal as well. And now she really gets it. And she's an addictions counselor and a digital dependency psych counselor. So it's really, really cool to see her perspective. So she's like a great case study when it comes to like sticking someone in VR. So the best way to get people to know this kind of stuff is podcasts like yourself, showing them real sponsors like Canon, Sony, Disney, whatever, and showing them that there's money there and that people are actually investing in it for a reason, and then sticking a headset. That's number one, though. It's so hard to show people what VR is without actually like slapping a headset on their face. So as far back as the DK2 days, I remember putting headsets on people in college. I used to be a member of my college's information technology club, and we would throw these LAN parties all the time that later became their esports collegiate league. And I would come in with a headset every time and just be like, whack, just like slap headsets on as many people as possible, and I would put them in VRChat. I put them in MMD Dance World or whatever, and just like let them experience that. Especially when you had friends there, right? And they're like, like new person. And it was like really, really cool because like that expressiveness, that personality, that conversation like we're having right now, it feels like I'm standing next to you, right? It's the closest you can be next to somebody without touching them, right? Like, and I'm sure all the people that in here that have relationships and things like that and built relationships or gotten married, in VR, they know where we're coming from. And that experience is something it's really hard to get somebody to really try until they actually try, so invite your friends over, get an extra headset, maybe an extra PC, and be that guide. That's the best way, right? Or go to events or have events like the pilot booth I talked about when we were plugging things in. That whole thing was set up with 4 headsets, and they got to play a game where they were sitting on a pilot pen that was kind of like a submarine, and you could shoot like pen torpedoes into each other in like a 4-player game. But you were sitting on a bench in front, and that immersive, that extra step of like feeling like you're there, and there are people who were coming in there who maybe never tried VR before in their life. A convention like that is a great way to do it, I think. Find excuses, to get people in a headset. Then they'll understand. I mean, maybe it'll take the AR glasses, like maybe whenever Meta releases their $10,000 AR glasses to the rest of the world, and everyone else will try them. I mean, I'm sure they'll be like $2,000 by the time that they come out, but I think when people see the potential of that, because AR is much easier to get people into, right? When they see the potential of that and they go, man, and then they sit down on a couch and they watch a movie on a virtual screen with their virtual Tamagotchi next to them or something, then they'll go, man, this would be really cool if it was dark. And then it'll click. They'll be like, oh, all those guys in VR, like they knew what they were doing, yeah, and this is the earlier tech. This is the easier tech, and we're just here enjoying it. They'll all be 60 by the time that it's mainstream, but we've been here the whole time, so there'll be a lot of FOMO. Yeah, I think it'll be a lot of FOMO. I'm not a young guy either. I'm 41 now, and I've been here a while. So it's really fun to see. I've met some cool people in here, though. I'll give you a person to interview if you get a chance.
Of course.
Go seek out Luminary Pie.
Luminary Pie.
He's got to be 70 now. He used to work for the IEEE organization, and he was a former VKet exhibitor. Probably one of VRChat's oldest players. But he's a retiree who's in here all the time, and he hangs out at the club scene.
I think I've met someone older, like in his 80s. There's a gentleman.
Oh, really? Wow.
He makes worlds. I world hopped into his world while he was in it. Let me turn the camera over. And I world hopped into his world when he was in it. And he was here early days, just like you, roughly, I think. Not that early, but early enough where you had to submit your world to the Discord. So I want to go check it out those days.
Yes.
80.
Oh, yeah.
I think in his 80s, I think. I'm sure the people who were there at that time, men who I'm talking about, he was pretty cool. We also met another 78-year-old veteran as well.
Oh yeah. I think there's a lot more people who from all ages that are coming in here now. So, but like Luminary Pie was the oldest person I knew in here, and I often feel like the oldest person in the room most of the time. And I'm just over 40 now. So, but that's true. It is a young man's or young ladies or young them's game, right in here, and it's really common to see people who are like 20 years my junior, right, or could be my kid, and it's really interesting to have a kid also from that generation where for her she's never lived in a world that VR didn't exist, so it's like a normal thing for her, just like people who are in their 20s have never lived in a world when a cell phone didn't exist, and so on, right? But I remember when there was no internet, and I'm just at that age, right? I'm just old enough to not have all of my blunder years forever emblazoned into some sort of social media site like MySpace or Facebook. Like I got to skip all that shit. I didn't get to see any of that. I'm just old enough, that I got to skip all of the social media in high school, but just young enough that I was here, and I'm still kicking, doing pretty decently, where I can work with these younger people and build all this cool stuff, right? I'm the exact ages like Mark Zuckerberg and like Chris Cox and people like that. And I remember when they were building things like that, and we all used to hang out in the same, maker IRCs and news groups and stuff like that. And I mean, I was part of that. Like I used to do PHP boards, and this isn't like VRChat's not my first like social network that I've done stuff on. So I think that also helps too, like having a history there with like event planning and online spaces and things like that for sure. But it's so cool to see, the people who are building stuff now and what they're going to do in 10 years and the companies that they're going to found in 10 years and the hardware that they're going to be on in 10 years. And I'm really excited for the day I can retire and like live in this place that we all built together. You know what I mean? Like, I think it'll be pretty fun. I mean, it's either going to be Snow Crash or it's going to be Ready Player One and probably something in the middle. Like, who knows?
So I have another random question for you as well. For the people who aren't making your whole marketing shoes, how would people from VR groups and entities are making things market themselves in a place like this?
Well, Vket exists for that reason. You should definitely go check it out. So does Project Community, and of course, with you guys being Vket ambassadors, it's like really nice to have a group that's working with communities specifically in this space that are also like, hey, if you want to make a career of this, you should probably start looking at groups like Hikky. That is the best way. Like you have to put yourself where other people are, and companies pay attention to us. We just happen to be there, and we're very lucky. We might not be the be all end all or the last company that ever does this. I'm sure others will try. There are other companies that are definitely chasing after us for sure, but definitely Vket for now. Other places, work with your favorite VTuber, especially the indie ones who are really passionate. Some of those people are incredible, and I've made a lot of really cool relationships with people who are doing like VTubing and live streaming and that sort of stuff. Some of the earliest advocates of VR are people like Nathy and Jacksepticeye and early YouTubers who were like showing off, or like VR Gamer Dude or Thrillseeker, people who are showing off the VR tech in the really, really early days. And I remember when they all started to pop up out of nowhere, and they were referencing back to my old tutorials on YouTube and stuff and getting into VRChat. And it was like really cool. We saw a lot of people come in because PewDiePie threw on a headset and screw around in Great Pug. Like that's the kind of stuff that that really helped grow it. And if you want to grow your community out there, find a personality who isn't toxic. Be very careful about who you hang out with. Put yourself into some real world conventions, like maybe do Offkai Expo or Anime Expo or Anime North or MagFest. Go to one of those events and hand out cards. Get to know people. That'll be a great way to grow an organic community and to grow with people who are actually getting out there and doing something in the real world that gets the attention of everyone else. Then try to market yourself. A good example is like what Shelter did with Neophoric, and they built a clothing line. And it's really popular. I cannot tell you how many people I saw at TwitchCon wearing Shelter branded Neophoric clothing. Just tons of them, way more than I expected. And like that's crazy to me because Twitch is a big platform and there's a lot of people there. But there was a lot of people wearing VRChat branded stuff, and it was shocking actually. But Shelter branded VRChat branded stuff, which was like, okay, like that's a lot. That's very niche to me, but apparently, it's good clothing. People like it. So that's how you start growing. And then Vket for sure. Like if you want to speak directly to VRChat users where they are, Vket's the way to go. I mean, we have 1 million visitors for 6 months, and we're going to put out worlds every time. It's going to be in the home row. We're VRChat's biggest partner. So of course people are going to see it that way. But try to do something like GS Genesis did with the VRChat game show community and talk to your local TV station. They're interested in that stuff. Like you're making stuff in the metaverse. Whoa. And slap a headset on your local newscaster and like in your small town and they'll care. And then it'll make news and people will grow. I mean, as a marketing guy, those are the small things you can do. You can go crazy and spend a bunch of money on a YouTube ad, but nothing will blow up your game as much as, for example, Markiplier playing Shotgun Roulette. Right? Like Buckshot Roulette. Remember when that game blew up? The reason why it blew up is because Markiplier played it on stream. And that's true for everything you do. And you can blow up to a certain extent. Everybody thinks, oh, I need to be picked up by someone huge to get somewhere in life. No, you probably don't want that kind of attention to start. Find someone small who you vibe with and ask them if they want some help promoting something cool or if they want to be involved or have some sort of special role in your community and have them work with you to make something cool with them. Or just come hang out with me on Wednesdays and we'll showcase your community, with Vket. That works out too. And then you can meet all kinds of people. Networking in here, as I said before, a third place. This is the third place. So come network in here with like-minded individuals and you can all work together to find a way to grow whatever it is you want to grow. And there are communities in here that have gone from like nothing to full-blown careers and like absolutely blown up. Like there are avatar creators in here who have gone from nothing to buying houses in cash. Like Jingo, the creator of Rindo and a bunch of other models, she came up to us at VketReal, and she's Korean and speaks Korean, so we had this weird three-way circle going. It was Chato Sensei, someone else, and Jingo, and they were talking, like playing telephone essentially, like to get it out. But as the story goes, he tells me basically Jingo came up and said, thank you to Vket because that's how I got my start, and I was able to get my avatar popular enough that it blew up on Booth and Vket store, and then I was able to buy my parents a house and pay off my college and do all this cool stuff. And so these success stories aren't rare either. Like there's a lot of people who've done just enough, or been able to quit their part-time job through these platforms, and all of that is just by putting your stuff out there. You got to put your stuff in front of as many people as possible. So do every convention you can, do every local thing you can, go to every con you can, and just hand out cards and get to know people. I think that's important. And if you're not the kind of person who's like me, good at talking, find someone who is, and make sure you trust them. Because I've met a lot of people who've actually like made things worse over time, right? Like there's definitely bad eggs. So you got to be careful, about your ruby rods. That's the way I like to say it. You've watched The Fifth Element? I
think so, yes. A long time ago.
Yeah. So there's a character named Ruby Rod on The Fifth Element. And he's like, in the end, sometimes they redeem themselves and end up being good people. But sometimes there's showboats out there that are just all talk. And I hope to never be seen that way. I like to walk the walk too. But there are people who are all talk. And so you have to be careful about who you align yourself with, because it can lead to a lot of social drama. And that can be really tough too. But find the right person, be real careful about it. Find the right person and maybe have that person help you do the talking. And sometimes that can work. You know, you got your Chris Connies out there who are definitely like all tears passionate, right? And those folks who really know their stuff, and those people can do well, you know, and that's why we're very choosy about our VKet ambassadors as well. Those are the people who can do the talking and can help advocate for the communities that they're involved in, and that's what you need. You know, you either need to be a talker or meet one, and help promote your community by finding somebody who's as passionate about it as you are. I think that's why I'm here at VKet too, you know. I love everything you guys do. So cool.
So I have another question for. Oop, you know what? That works enough. So I have another question for you as well. For the music VKet coming up with wintervket and then the coming summervket, what can people expect to see in those events and anything? Well, to get excited for.
Well, Music VKet primarily exists as a place to show new music. And it's going to be a lot of independent artists. And in the past, Music VKet was always that way. So you're going to see a lot of booths with a lot of cool music in it. Really big artists like Camellia and other people like that have had booths at Music VKet. People like Ghost Data and Camellia and Tash, who did soundtracks for games like Sound Voltex and Dance Dance Revolution, and Odyssey Eurobeat was there, who's on the Initial D soundtrack. So lots of really cool artists you'll find there, like who are big and also independent. So you're going to find all kinds of cool people from Vrchat who've done music before, or who are just getting started in music, or maybe they do spoken word or poetry, or maybe they do a podcast. So you'll find all kinds of really cool people at Music VKet. That you can look forward to for sure. Some discovery, right? And the whole so the concept for the previous Music VKet was like chill and dig, meaning like dig through a record crate, and this one will be shuffle. So the idea is that like you're gonna discover a lot of new music that you maybe didn't hear before. But one thing we are definitely doing is we're gonna have a stage that anyone can use inside of the map, much like we did with Libertune in the last Music VKet. And we can expect our ambassadors, people like Clyde Machine and people like Corbell and other folks from our ambassador teams, to throw music events. And then we always like to collaborate with clubs. So if we have a few clubs that are interested in working with us, I hear Ministry is kind of interested as well. VRU and a bunch of other people like that will probably throw some events during Music VKet as well, and you can expect to see those as well. There's less of a focus on concerts this time. We'd rather other people kind of organize them, so we'll kind of throw ourselves in there. So rather than, you know, me doing full gung-ho crazy particle lives, I'm sure we'll see some. And we work with people like Remhack, who now work at Hikky, to build those kinds of things. So we'll have a few of those, I'm sure. But mostly it'll be like the fun of listening to new music. And of course, it's happening simultaneously with regular VKet. So, you know, there will be 300 artists plus at that event. So 300 booths, and some of those booths will have multiple artists. So at least 300 artists. So that should be pretty interesting. Be a lot of fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun. Oh.
Yeah, there's always something to do.
Okay. One last final couple of questions we'll give you before we start wrapping this up. First is the name you use in VRChat. Where'd it come from, and why do you still use it?
My name is Dylan, and Lhun, it's Dylan. It's a pun. It's pretty simple. It's a 4-digit name, so you can also. It's also a lot of people used to call me a bit of a lunatic. So loon is also okay. You can pronounce it that way. You know, I'm a Canadian loony. The other thing it comes from is I really liked Lord of the Rings when I was young, and Lhun is a river, and also a color in Elvish.
Oh,
so it fits. Yeah,
I didn't know that. Oh, and the avatar you use, where'd it come from? Is there anything about it that mean anything to you?
I made it, and my wife made it too. So this is me. I have lots of versions of it. My soul, essentially, is the glasses, the lip ring, and the earrings. And if you meet me in person, you'll see that it's the same thing. I have, I wear big, thick glasses, earrings, and a lip ring. And so I've injected my soul into all of my avatars that are me over the years since forever. So here's my version of Vket Channel 2. Still me. And you'll notice my icon on Twitter, is the same. It's still me. It's the glasses, the lip ring, and the earrings, right? And no matter what avatar I'm in, I just inject my soul into it. And essentially, my Twitter logo is the one consistent, persistent part of the avatar all the way through, right? So every avatar I've ever used throughout the years, even if it comes with a car, is still me, right? Even my froggy car. is still me.
I remember seeing it at the World Hop recently too. You showed that off there.
Yeah. Yep. So I have a few ones that I've done that are kind of interesting, as well. Like, so this one is actually sculpted off my own face. This uses the shader that Shadow River made for Glamorous back then. Again, it's still me though, and as I go through, the avatars, they're all gonna be. It's the same, the same me, just slightly different, more scans. This one, a lot of people got to know me in. I think I got to bring back Demon Mode Lhun for Halloween, maybe. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, as I sort of back through these, it's kind of fun to go back through old avatars. They've even got a Mokuri. It's still me. Let's see. It is really fun to go back through these old avatars. I have an old back when 5,000 poly was the norm for Quest. You get back into these old ones. I've even got a con. Still me though, right? Glasses and all. And this one was in the New Year's world for many years. With my friend Panda Man. He had a magazine, like the longest running newspaper in VR, virtual weekality. And I used this avatar when Quest was new. This is like a 5,000 poly avatar. And a lot of these are handmade. Some of them are MMD remixes. So Jay Genomu, for example, I was using their base for a long time. And of course customizing it with my glasses and stuff. This used an early version of Noise Shader before they were working at VRchat. I just keep going back and back and back and back. This avatar I think I did in 2016. Still me though. I will say this though, my very first avatar was this one. And this one doesn't have glasses, but this is a character from a show called Mekiku City Actors. And the first cosplay that I ever did with my wife was this character and a character called NA from the same show. And you can see a picture of us cosplaying these two characters, but they were also the first two avatars we ever put any effort into, because I was doing MMD at the time and I helped sculpt this one. So I designed this model and the NA model from Mekiku City Actors and uploaded them to VRchat, and that was the very first avatars we ever did, was this one. Later did other versions of this one with the glasses and everything, but I'm still an MMD at heart. down deep down somewhere. Still MMD character at heart.
Well, Lhun, thank you.
So yeah, just injecting my soul in all of them.
Thank you so very much for coming on. Let us get to know you, Vket, and hearing all your stories. So it's been very much appreciated. So thank you.
No, thanks for listening to me ramble. I don't get an opportunity to do that, but not too often.
Not a problem.
But when I do, I'll kill my vocal cords. I could talk for 5 more hours, I'm sure, but you'll have to catch me on a Wednesday or a Sunday.
Well, it's very much appreciated. We enjoyed hearing every last minute of it. So thank you.
No, thank you for having me.
And if the audience wishes to reach out and find you or Vket, where can they do that?
Oh, that's real easy. So you can go to x.com/DYLHUN, Dylan, Lhun, right? On X. Or you can find us on enVket. You can also find us on Twitch on Vket channel or on YouTube as Vket Chan. You can also find us on Kick as Vket channel. And we're also on Instagram, and we're on Threads, and we're on pretty much every social media. We will inundate you with stuff. You just follow us on everything, and your phone will become a slot machine, much like my Discord. But yeah, don't miss out on coming into one of our events. Give me that moment to talk, and maybe Virtual Degen will put it down on the doobly-doo down below.
Thingamabobble.
So.
Yeah, it'll always be in the thingamabobble.
Thingamabobble. The thingamabobble down below. Yeah, definitely come to our World Hop on a Wednesday. If you want to hang out with me in VRchat and the rest of my community, and Chato Sensei, who's been on your show before, as well as the rest of the Vket ambassadors and all these other crazy people who are making all the stuff that we were showing off today, that's where you want to be. So every Wednesday, which is tomorrow, but it won't be tomorrow whenever this comes out, but maybe tomorrow, if this comes out on a Tuesday. It's every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. We do a world hop in VRChat where we go through old VKet worlds. We give a little bit of a news. We tell you the countdown to the next event and give you access to all kinds of early stuff. All the people who've got to do cool stuff with us early, and all the people who've been able to do events in VRChat or be involved with us in VRChat are the kind of people that come hang out with us when we're doing VKet related activities during the event or before the event or prior to the event. We also have a Discord, and it is pinned at the top of the enVketX account, so you can find that right there. And if you join it, we got about 1,000 other people in there. You get some cool stickers and a bunch of other cool VKet stuff, but that is the biggest insider place. We have a very large localization team, and they work very, very hard to take the Japanese stuff and make it English for everybody. A lot of people get really intimidated because they walk into a VKet event and it seems like it's all Japanese. But you have to remember that the booths are mostly Japanese creators right now, but we want to change that, and that's my job. So we want to see more of you. So come find us at the World Hop.
And all of those things that Lhun mentioned will be in the thingamabobble down below. And before we...
I've just given him like a novel.
Yeah, it's a really long list, and I swear every day this continues, that list gets longer of things for them to go in the description for. I don't even know if they go down there. You know what? The question for you guys, the audience, before I hand it to Raptor to close it, do you ever go in the description at all? That's the question.
Do they read the description? You just have to put it on screen, right? Just like subliminal message it. Just every third frame.
It's so easy.
Cigarette burn.
Goddamn
If you're on your phone, you scroll the video down just a little bit. There's a description that says labeled. It says show more. Everything's right there. Do you even look at it?
Yeah, it must be easier. No, no one looks at it.
No,
but just keep
worth...
listening. Just go find us on social media. Search up Vket. It's easy. About.vket.com. Vket.com. We have an avatar maker.
Oh, well. With that said, Raptor, you know the thing.
Sounds like you're getting old, and so am I. But no matter no matter what, folks, the ride that what I just had just now has been pretty goddamn cool. So no matter what, somebody needs. I'm gonna tie a rope to Line's belt and get me some Healy so he can pull my old ass around. We'll talk to you later. You have a good one. Bye.
Oh, yeah, Lion. I actually did see Raptor recently.
Oh, really? I've been wondering where he went.
Yeah, how do I explain this? He was on the luggage conveyor line.
What? He was on the conveyor line?
Yeah, I was getting my ticket all sorted, and he just kind of was riding along a piece of luggage. Just, yeah.
I actually heard someone scream from the baggage claim area. I don't know what that was about, but one of the staff members just screamed out loud for some random reason.
Yeehaw, woohoo, whoopee, yeah, what the hell, woo, donkey. Oh, I want a cracker.
All these terrors, and now I have to move ye packages. Ah!
What?
Don't miss out for Winter VKet, December 7th through the 22nd. See you there.